Hello, hockey fans, and welcome to another edition of Anatomy of a Season, the series where we take a look at a given season of a given team and what led up to it all, and going month by month, game by game, of how it all went down. Most recently, you all survived the horror of the 1992-93 Ottawa Senators, but this one is not exactly as terrifying or scary at all. With that being said, it's a team nobody had any expectations for. Ah, yes, the 2003-04 Calgary Flames. Just look at these boys, and look as if to say, we shall not let Gary Bettman suck the soul out of Canadian teams anymore. A team with one superstar and many character players, on paper not exactly the makings of a champion or even a prominent contender. As a matter of fact, the last time the Flames had a snowball chance in hell of anything resembling a contendership was shortly after Friends wrapped up its first season, and Nickelback hadn't even released their first album yet. So of course, with every story comes a backstory. Of course, the Calgary Flames' origins begin in Atlanta as the Atlanta Flames in the 1972-73 season, entering the league the same year as the New York Islanders did. And they got good really quick. The problem was for years they were simply good and not evolving, despite GM Cliff Fletcher's eye for talent. They couldn't win a playoff series to save their life, and also by 1980, hockey in Atlanta wasn't exactly a hit. Gee, who would have thought that? So the team moved to Calgary, and their first year there in the 1980-81 season was a big success. They finally won a playoff series. As a matter of fact, they made it all the way to the Stanley Cup semifinal before being beaten out by the upstart Minnesota North Stars. The Flames had superstar forward Kent Nilsson leading the way, but in 1981-82, they made the big grab to obtain Alberta native Lanny McDonald, a former All-Star with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and was recently at that point with the Colorado Rockies. They also had defenseman Paul Reinhart shining as one of their best players. The Flames engaged in a heated and hated rivalry with their fellow provincial dwellers, the Edmonton Oilers. And the Oilers, led of course by Wayne Gretzky and a plethora of future Hall of Famers, were on the verge of dominating the NHL. Games between the Flames and Oilers would see some exciting tense-filled outings. Scraps, fights, brawls, dirty plays, you name it. But fans from both towns as well as many regions across the country really enjoyed this rivalry. The Flames were in the middle-of-the-road team at the time, and most years seemingly the only one giving the Oilers any run for their money in the division, as evidenced by the 1984 Smythe Division Final in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, where the Flames took the 57-win Oilers, who I've covered on this channel, to 7 games, but the Oilers won and would go on to obtain their first Stanley Cup that year. By the 1985-86 season, it saw the Flames obtain 40 wins. But again, they were set to meet the dominant two-time defending Cup champion, their rival, the Oilers, in the Smythe Division Finals. And this Flames team was led by their fearless leader, Lanny McDonald, as well as 2 huge acquisitions late that season, 4-time Stanley Cup winner and All-Star John Tonelli from the Islanders, and the ever-talented Joey Mullen from the St. Louis Blues. On defense, they were bolstered by Reinhart, as well as 2 young sensations, the man with the lethal shot, Al MacInnis, and that year's top rookie, Gary Suter. But in net, they were going with unheralded rookie, Mike Vernon, or as many of the media called him, Mike Who. No chance on paper. But the Flames did the unthinkable, pulling out the shocking upset in 7 games. They made it all the way to their first Stanley Cup final before losing in 5 games to the Montreal Canadiens. By the 1987-88 season, it looked as if the Flames were going to overtake the Oilers for good. They had a new head coach in Terry Crisp and an incredibly stacked lineup. Up front, Joe Mullen was still one of the best in the league. They had Swedish sensation Håkan Loob notching 50 goals, another high goal scorer in Mike Bullard. Also, John Tonelli was still producing. They had 2A forward Joel Otto, gritty youngster Gary Roberts, a great leader in Jim Poplinski, and despite losing his scoring touch due to injury, Lanny McDonald was still a well-respected captain and leader. But to top it off, a rookie sensation by the name of Joe Nieuwendyk up front scored 50 goals and only became the second rookie at that time to do so. This defense, MacInnis and Suter were machines. They added Brad McCrimmon from the Philadelphia Flyers, again a great addition, and nasty Rob Ramage from the Blues, and they also had the very underrated Jamie McCown. And Mike Vernon was actually evolving nicely as one of the NHL's best goaltenders. They finished with the best record in the entire league, winning the Smythe Division for the first time. In the 1988 Smythe Final, however, it was the Oilers again who had regained the Cup the year prior. The Flames were embarrassed. Their stars were undisciplined and didn't deliver. They were swept out by the eventual champions. Cliff Fletcher, however, didn't take this lying down. After Bullard's bad playoff performance, he was sent to the St. Louis Blues, where the Flames acquired All-Star Doug Gilmour. They had a fresh rookie deemed way too small to play in the NHL. His name was Theo Fleury. The Flames refocused, regrouped, and were a much more disciplined bunch this go-round, and they again finished with the NHL's best record. The Smythe Division, however, saw a huge shakeup with the Gretzky trade as the Kings became contenders. The Oilers seemed like they were wounded emotionally despite still possessing 5 future Hall of Famers. However, it took overtime of Game 7 for the Flames to eliminate the upstart Vancouver Canucks in the first round. But they swept out Gretzky and the Kings in the Smythe final and made pretty easy work of underdog Chicago in the conference final to make their second trip to the finals, again facing the Habs, who had the second best record in the NHL. And in 6 games, they did it. Al MacInnis is the Conn Smythe Trophy Winners' Playoff MVP. Lanny McDonald finally has a Stanley Cup, and the Calgary Flames are at long last champions, and the journey was worth it. It seemed as though they would rule the NHL roost for the next few years as the NHL's next big dynasty. Well, you'd think that. In the next 5 seasons, they'd suffer 4 first-round exits and miss the playoffs once, and finished first in their division twice and second 2 other times. They also kept losing to teams they finished better than in the standings. After their Cup win, Lanny retired, Lou returned to Sweden. They still had a great 1989-90 season as Theo Fleury emerged as a huge star, but a disappointing Kings club actually beat them in 6 games, and they finished 24 games back of the Flames that season. Now, Coach Terry Crisp, despite his success, the players just didn't really seem to care for him at all as a person, and was fired as coach. They would lose Joe Mullen to Pittsburgh after that, but still had a great 1990-91 season with 100 points on the dot. But lost a thrilling 7-game series to the Oilers, which would be the final Battle of Alberta in the playoffs for 31 years. But the big blow came in the offseason when they lose Cliff Fletcher as the general manager who built this team for 19 years. He's the only GM they ever had, as he took a job with the fledgling Toronto Maple Leafs. Coach Doug Risebrough took over as general manager, and many questioned this move. And the 1991-92 season was a disaster, the only highlight being Gary Roberts, the heart and soul of the Flames, notching 53 goals. During that year, Fletcher played his old protege Risebrough like a fiddle with a one-sided trade that resulted in Doug Gilmour and Jamie McCown going to the Leafs and changing their fortunes. The Flames rebounded with a 97-point season in 1992-93, however. At this point, Risebrough was more focused on his GM role, which was probably the smarter thing to do, while Dave King became the team's head coach. But it was another first-round playoff exit to the Kings, who they finished 9 points above. To be fair, however, this Kings team was better than their record might have suggested. And the Flames were first in their division in 93-94, and in the new 1-8 playoff format, they were the second-seeded team in the West and faced the 7th-place Canucks, who they were 12 points above. But again, this Canucks team was probably a little better than their record suggested, but either way, there's no excuse for this. They blew a 3-1 series lead and lost in 7 games. Now, during this time, they maintained many of their stars in that Stanley Cup win. Nieuwendyk, Fleury, Roberts, Otto, MacInnis, Suter, and Vernon. Other players had emerged as key factors on this team by 93-94, 2-time 40-goal scorer Robert Reichel, Soviet superstar Sergei Makarov, and German Titov. Before the 1993-94 season began, however, Sergei Makarov, who didn't have the best 92-93 season, was traded to Hartford on June 20th, 1993, for future considerations for a 4th-round draft pick in that year's draft. That ended up being Princeton University's Jason Smith. But Makarov didn't play a single game for the Whalers, because 6 days later they traded him to the Sharks for the first-round draft pick, which would be future Hall of Famer Chris Pronger. Now, granted, Makarov was 35 and on the downswing of his career, but here's the thing, he still played 123 more games with the San Jose Sharks in 2 seasons, and was one of the main reasons they went from 11 wins to 33 and making one of the biggest turnarounds in NHL history. Now, granted, yes, we know Pronger didn't last long in Hartford, but in 2 seasons they still got 124 games out of him. But indeed, things didn't stop there during the 93-94 season. The Flames stunned many of their fans and the media on March 10, 1994, trading superstar defenseman Gary Suter, along with Paul Raynham, a 3-time 20-goal scorer, and little-used Ted Drury for James Patrick, a grossly underrated veteran defenseman, Zarley Zalapski, a rising young defenseman, and Swedish forward Michael Nylander, yes, that's you-know-who's father, who's in the midst of his first NHL season. But as the norm with Hartford in this era, they couldn't even keep the Stars happy for a day, so the very next day the Whalers traded Suter for Frank Kucera and Jocelyn Lemieux to the Blackhawks. Well, the Flames got to combine 563 games from this trio, mostly from Patrick and Zalapski, who played pretty good. The Whalers got to combine 584 out of this deal, mainly from Ranheim, and that includes the deal with the Hawks that they made. But Suter would play 528 more games in his NHL career, 285 with the Hawks, before retiring in 2002, which at that point, none of the guys from the Calgary trade would be there. And it didn't make much of a difference this year, as I mentioned their exit again from the Canucks in the first round. But to play devil's advocate, Doug Risebrough was pretty much left with no choice to make moves. The fact is, when in 5 seasons you've been beat out of the opening round 4 times and you have a team this good and missed the playoffs even once, then those 4 times again, you're better than these guys in the standings. Sometimes you do have to sacrifice and trade your stars to shake things up, even if they may be Hall of Famers in the making. Are you listening, Toronto? But Risebrough had the right idea, but did he have the right execution? Mind you, sometimes his hand would be forced, as players were increasingly unhappy, again, as the team was becoming notoriously cheap, but that wasn't entirely their fault either in terms of ownership, as Canadian markets under the Bettman regime were starting to really shrink. But this wasn't the only issue. This also falls on Cliff Fletcher. Now, granted, being a consistently good team, you're going to get low draft picks in the first round. But even so, there were some glaring mistakes here. Again, in 1987, winger Brian Deasley was taken late in the first round, and Calgary, like many teams to be fair, left another winger by the name of John LeClaire on the board. Deasley never played an NHL game. In 1998, they drafted Jason Mazzotti, a goaltender, but he ended up playing just 2 games for the Flames, but his career never panned out anywhere else in the NHL, and a waste of a pick regardless, as Stefan Fissé was still on the board, and he at least had a decent career. In 1989, they had given up the first-round pick in the 1987 trade to get Brad McCrimmon, which was a very good move, but McCrimmon was already gone by 1990, traded for pretty much a bag of pucks to the Red Wings. He would still play nearly 400 more NHL games before retiring in 1997. But speaking of 1990, they made a puzzling move. They took Trevor Kidd in the first round, trading up with the Devils to get him. Now, again, it's weird for any team in any time to take back-to-back goalies in consecutive years in the first round. Kidd at least played 178 games, but considering how Mazzotti turned out, in hindsight, not a bad choice. That being said, however, as I mentioned, they traded up with the Devils. Who did the Devils take in a lower round pick? Oh, they just took a guy named Martin Brodeur later on. So again, Fletcher does deserve a lot of the blame here, how things went down in this era. Oh boy, here we go. 180 games played, 3 first-rounders, not good. Riseborough, however, didn't fare any better in 1991, taking a Swedish winger Niklas Sundblad, who had played 2 games, when the very next pick was Czech winger Martin Raczynski, who played 961 games and had over 600 career points. However, in 1992, he made a really good pick in Corey Stillman from the Windsor Spitfires, and he would play close to 400 games for the Flames. But Jesper Metson picked in 1993 to play 0. 3 picks later, Saku Koivu, who played in over 1,100 games, had 832 career points. 2 picks after that was Todd Bertuzzi. Eek. In the 1994 draft, however, they took winger Chris Dingman. He'd played 72 games, and like almost every other team in the draft, they did pass on Patrick Iliash. But here's they took 77th overall in the 3rd round. Chris Clark, a native of South Windsor, Connecticut, 6 foot tall, neighborhood of 200 pounds, is, pretty gritty, tough forward. He can play defensively. His offensive numbers are really good. In 3 seasons playing junior hockey in Springfield, he had 89 goals, 115 assists for 204 points, adding 361 penalty minutes in 127 games. However, he enrolled in Clarkson University for NCAA Division I, but he continued to do well in hockey on that level. But what came on June 29th was nothing short of huge. Indeed, on June 29, 1994, the Flames sent all-star goalie Mike Vernon, who's been their starter for 8 seasons, to the Detroit Red Wings for defenseman Steve Chiasson. Now, Chiasson was a really good defenseman, and they get 168 games out of him, however. While Vernon, while only spending 3 seasons in Detroit, despite not even really being their de facto number 1 goalie, plays in 2 Stanley Cups and wins 1, where he's the consummate trophy winner as playoff MVP. But yeah, it was Trevor Kidd's time. But I'll say Dougie Boy did the right thing by getting the defenseman here because, well, Suter gone and another defenseman being very unhappy with the club on July 4th, he'd be gone too. Yes, Al MacInnis, future Hall of Famer, was dealt to the St. Louis Blues for another future Hall of Famer. And also, MacInnis went along with a 4th-round draft pick in 97 for all-star defenseman Phil Housley. Now, along with 2nd-round draft picks in 1996 and 97, well, the draft picks in 96 didn't amount to much on paper, and this looks good. And look, yes, maybe MacInnis is better than Housley overall, but Housley is still a Hall of Famer. And if you're going to trade one all-star defenseman like on MacInnis' caliber, you should get one in return. Housley, however, would play all of 102 games in this stint with the Flames, as it wouldn't be his last, while MacInnis played 613 for the Blues, won his first and only Norris Trophy as the league's top defenseman in 1999, and became an icon in that town every bit as much as he was in Calgary. It seems that the Vernon trade was for change, and the hand was forced with MacInnis. The 1994-95 season, however, was shortened to 48 games due to a lockout, but the Flames still finished with 55 points, first place in the Pacific Division. Despite all the changes, they faced the Sharks in the playoffs, who were 13 points behind them, and beat the Flames in 7 games. But this actually wasn't the worst news they'd received that year. Gary Roberts suffered a severe injury early in the season, and his whole career was in jeopardy. However, after the season, Dave King was done as Flames coach. the third straight first-round exit, the fifth in 6 seasons. The last time they won a playoff series is when they won the Stanley Cup in 1989. Riseborough, despite making changes, being for the good of the team or being forced to do so, was eager to keep certain remnants of that 1989 Stanley Cup win on the Flames, and thinking they were still key to their future, as many of them were still pretty young. But Joe Nieuwendyk wasn't happy after 8 seasons in Calgary. I've covered his career on this channel, check it out. And he was always a great leader, a model of consistency, huge in the clutch, and great natural skill. He had 616 points in 577 games and was a plus 135. The offseason was bleak and no new deal was made as the 1995-96 season was approaching. Joel Otto, a veteran of 11 seasons, all spent with Calgary, was also a great leader and a very hard-working two-way player, so much so he got votes for the Selke as top defensive forward 7 times in his career, and was a finalist twice in 1993 and the season that just wrapped up in 1995. Apparently, Calgary just failed to see his value anymore. He signed as a free agent with the Flyers, where he played 3 more seasons, got Selke votes in 2 of them, and played in a Stanley Cup final in 1997. Gary Roberts' career was up in the air, but he was really working hard to make a comeback. And he seemed very happy in Calgary. He was immensely popular, was scrappy, gritty, and he could score. He had 463 points in 510 games, was an incredible plus 210. Then there was winger Theo Fleury, 5'6", but played like he was 8 feet tall, heart of a lion, ferocity of a tiger. He had become a bona fide star in Calgary and throughout the NHL even, 510 points in 488 games. In his 7 seasons at this point, he reached 100 points twice, made the top 10 in scoring twice, and in this past 1994-95 season was named a second-team All-Star for the first time. He too seemed happy in Calgary. But it was clear that things are a mess. Again, some unhappy stars, playoff woes, young prospects are not emerging. For the next season, however, they hire a new coach in Pierre Pagé. So the solution is to find a guy who coached 5 seasons in the NHL and never won a playoff series. Anyway, on to the draft. The Flames get 20th overall pick and select defenseman Denis Gauthier out of Drummondville. A towering 6'3", and over 220 pounds, a hard hitter, nasty customer at times, primarily a stay-at-home defender, but will not join the Flames for another couple of years, as he will go on in 1995-96 to have his best offensive season, with 25 goals, 29 assists for 74 points in 53 games. He'd also be a big part of Canada's gold medal win at the 1996 Juniors, and over 4 seasons, accumulated nearly 650 penalty minutes. Well, the 1995-96 season had arrived. Joe Nieuwendyk was still a holdout. He would never play a single game for the Calgary Flames again. And to start the season, the team went winless in their first 10 games of the 1995-96 season, pretty much their worst start ever. Shortly after, general manager Doug Riseborough was fired after 5 seasons as general manager and with the organization after 14, but it pretty much had to be done at this point. This team was just completely directionless. Al Coates was named general manager in his replacement, and the Flames did begin to improve. And on December 19, 1995, a big trade was made, as they were able to deal Joe Nieuwendyk, who was sent to the Dallas Stars in exchange for forward Corey Millen, a 3-time 20-goal scorer who sadly wouldn't amount to much in Calgary. But the meat and potatoes of this trade, Jarome Iginla, who had yet to play a single NHL game, but was Dallas' first-round pick in the 1995 draft just 6 months prior. Let's take a look at this kid. He was taken 11th overall by the Dallas Stars in the 1995 draft, as he was part of the best junior team in Canada at the time, the Kamloops Blazers, along with fellow first-rounder Shane Doan. Back-to-back WHL championships in 1994-95, and back-to-back Memorial Cups. It's the best junior team in Canada in 1994 and 95. At this point, he's in his 3rd season in the WHL, and having a sensational year where he'd go on to score 63 goals and 73 assists for 136 points in 63 games. He was named to the CHL All-Star team as the best all-around players in the country, and he would be a part of Canada's 1996 gold medal win at the World Juniors, and he led the whole tournament in scoring with 12 points and was named best forward of the whole tournament as well. In his entire junior tenure, he scored 236 points in 183 games. He had size to him, played a very fearless and sometimes physical style, tremendous leadership qualities, and was a momentum changer when it came to shaking things up for his team in a given game. Scouts deemed him a man you could really build a team around. Well, I guess we'll see. The Flames rebounded after their terrible start, despite not finishing with a great record. Fleury had a really good year, and they made the playoffs in a very puzzlingly weak Western Conference that year. However, they parted with Phil Housley, who was battling injury and inconsistency, trading him to New Jersey, after sacrificing the greatest defenseman in the team's history to get him. Coates was making a lot of deals at the time. Some made sense, some didn't. The big feel-good story of this year, however, was the triumphant return of Gary Roberts, who had more than 40 points in just 33 games, but sadly wasn't ready for the playoffs and would announce his retirement. The Flames finished second in their division and were 6th seeded in the Western Conference, but were swept out by a third-season powerful Blackhawks club. And it was the first time since 1985 they were eliminated by a team better than them in the standings, as the Hawks were 15 points better. But still, that's 4 straight first-round playoff exits and 6 in 7 seasons. However, Jerome McGinley made his debut for the Flames in that series, had a goal and a helper for 2 points in 2 games. He'd be a full-on rookie roster member the following year. The Flames actually made some good picks in the 1996 draft. They took defenseman Derek Morris from the Regina Pats in the first round, 13th overall. And in the third round, 89th overall, they took another defenseman, Antoni Lindman from Finland. A traditional, very sizable defenseman, he played an excellent physical game and he could hit. He has a gold medal at the 1995 European Juniors and played in the 1996 World Juniors. However, he'll be staying in his native Finland, honing his skills for the next 4 years. The 1996-97 season was not good. But hey, the Flames did acquire 6-time 30-goal scorer Dave Gagner from Toronto and didn't have to give up much to get him. And he scored 27 goals this season, and hey, he's gone to Florida after 1 season in Calgary. And hey, Robert Reichel returned after a year of playing in Germany, and hey, he's traded to the Islanders later in the year for 2 players and a draft pick. And again, who wouldn't even play a combined 100 games in the club. They also parted with defenseman Steve Chiasson of Hartford, and that's who they gave up Mike Vernon for. Now, granted, nobody could have foreseen the tragic circumstances that Chiasson's life met, but they got 2 players with 2 draft picks. The 2 players played a combined 77 games, the draft picks played a combined 0. Iginla, however, had a very good rookie season and was a runner-up for the Calder Trophy as the league's top rookie. Fleury played well, but not up to his usual standards. The Flames finished 5th in the Pacific, 10th in the West, 73 points. And for the first time since 1992, and only the 4th time in their 25-year history, they missed the playoffs. Paget is dismissed as coach. Gee, you think? The draft does not go well in the offseason either. The Flames wanted a centerman, but even by their 6th pick, Joe Thornton, Patrick Marleau, and Ole Jokinen, all the best, were taken. They took Daniel Tkachuk, who was highly touted, but ended up being a bust. But hey, some good news in the offseason. Gary Roberts wanted to come out of retirement. Bad news, he wants to play for an East Coast team that'll be easier for travel due to some of his injury ailments. The Flames, however, do oblige this. On August 25th, they sent Gary Roberts and Trevor Kidd, their goaltender who didn't become what they thought he would, to the Carolina Hurricanes for Andrew Castles and goaltending process Jean-Sébastien Giguère. Castles, really? I mean, he was a decent hand, but was he really the Gary Roberts? Well, he played 2 seasons in Calgary. But hey, Giguère played nearly 600 NHL games, winning 262, and playing in 2 Stanley Cup Finals, and winning 1 with the Ducks. He played 22 games for the Flames. The 1997-98 season saw the Flames dip even further down to 67 points with new coach Brian Sutter, and 5th again in the Pacific and 11th in the West, missing the playoffs in back-to-back seasons for the first time ever. They did make a great move, however, acquiring Valérie Bure from the Montreal Canadiens late in the season. Fleury had a really good year. However, Iginla would have the sophomore jinx. They would trade Germain Titov in the offseason, and the 1998 draft wasn't the strongest for any team in the league, except for maybe Tampa Bay. Going into the 1998-99 season, things weren't looking all that great. Phil Housley, however, rejoined the Flames. Denis Gauthier had made the main roster. Stillman and Bure were still very productive. Iginla had 28 goals that year, rebounding from his rough sophomore year, and Fleury was playing superbly. And he had just become the team's all-time scoring leader and had 69 points in his first 60 games. But now it was no longer about cheap ownership anymore. It literally was all about small Canadian markets just unable to compete with the American dollar. And Fleury was about to be a free agent. So on February 28, 1999, a decision was made that broke the hearts of Flames fans everywhere. Fleury, along with tough guy Chris Dingman, were traded to the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for Wade Belak, Rennie Corbet, who played only combined 140 games for Calgary, plus future considerations, and a second-round draft pick in 2000, which was Jarrett Stoll, who the Flames failed to sign and was later redrafted 2 years later by the Oilers and played 872 games and got 2 Stanley Cup rings as a reliable grinding forward. Yeah, we know the Flames were pretty much forced into making this trade, but granted, nobody foresaw Fleury's downfall coming a few years later, but still, this was not a good deal. However, one good thing did come out of it overall. It wasn't a total loss for the Flames, as they did cash in on their future considerations. It was actually the Avalanche's first-round draft pick for the 1998 draft. Defenseman from the Kamloops Blazers, Robin Regehr. A towering defenseman, 6'3", 225 pounds, hard-hitting, nasty sometimes, and plays a stay-at-home style. He was in the midst of having his best year in 1998-99. Not normally an offensive defenseman, he did register 32 points in 52 games, was named to CHL's third-team All-Star team, and won a silver for the World Juniors in Canada. Again, he's tough, he has grit, he has potential to be an asset, and indeed he'll be joining the team next season. The Flames were only 2 points out of a playoff spot before the Fleury trade, and still stayed in the thick of things, but missed the playoffs by 6 points, finishing 9th with 72. They drafted Oleg Saprikin in the offseason, and he would become a part of the team in the year 2000. Although the 1999-2000 season wasn't looking any better on paper, but Jarome Iginla had no deal, and Flames fans and media were starting to panic. But the crisis was averted just after 2 games as the season started, and he signed a new deal. And he was further proving he was one of the deepest players in every facet of the game with another good year. Valerie Bure also played very well. The Flames also had an undrafted forward that year by the name of Martin St. Louis, but he got little to no ice time and was gone by the end of the season. Doubt we'll ever hear from him again. However, the team also had injury issues this season, to be fair, with Stillman and defenseman Regier and Albeline having rough years. They missed the playoffs again, this time with a 31-41 and 10-5 record. Yes, this was the tie and overtime loss era, for 77 points. 4th in their division, 12th in the conference. In the Alcoats era, general manager was now over, and taking over was Craig Button. Yes, the same guy from TSN. He had been involved with the Dallas Stars, however, in a management capacity since they were in Minnesota back in 1988. Mainly as director of scouting and director of player personnel, and got himself a Stanley Cup ring due to this role in 1999. As a matter of fact, many believe he was responsible for the drafting of Jarome Iginla. Brian Sutter, who has also finished as coach, and they hired Don Hay, who was Iginla's coach in Kamloops, and had NHL experience coaching the Coyotes for a season. The team would sign veteran grinder Dave Lowry as well, who had nearly 900 games experience. The 2000 NHL draft that year took place in Calgary, and they took goalie Brent Kran of the Calgary Hitmen, 8th overall. And indeed, it got a nice reaction from the crowd, as they pretty much knew who he was. He played 1 NHL game for Dallas. This was also the year of the whole Jarrett Stoll debacle. It also reacquired goaltender and legend Mike Vernon to be a backup, but he had no magic left, sadly. Although Button made a really good deal for the Flames on September 26, 2000, as the Flames dealt Andrei Nazarov and a second-round draft pick in 2001 to Anaheim for the rights to defenseman Jordan Leopold. Leopold was a Golden Valley, Minnesota native and was in the midst of his tenure with the amazing University of Minnesota Golden Gophers program. Much like many defenders of this era, he had the height, the size, the strength, and was very traditional. But he did have an offensive upside to him in college. Over his time there, he had 45 goals, 99 assists for 144 points in 4 seasons and 164 games. His last season there would be just a bit ahead of our story where we are right now, in 2001 and 2002, where he scored 20 goals, 28 assists for 48 points, and won several accolades. He won the prestigious Hobie Baker Award in 2002 as a top player in the entire NCAA hockey program. Back-to-back WCHA Defensive Player of the Year in 2001 and 2002, and was also a first-team All-Star in those seasons. He was a second-team All-Star in 2000, a third-team All-Star in his rookie season in 1999. He represented Team USA in both the 1999 and 2000 World Juniors, and played in the 2002 World Ice Hockey Championships. This was a pretty damn good move. Jarome Iginla was being seen as one of the best all-around forwards in the NHL. He's starting to play a lot more physical, starting to get a little more tougher, and can also play defensively and getting a little scrappy. Now produces on the score sheet. He had his best year to date with 31 goals and 71 total points. This Flames team is still a mess, and Ron Hay is actually fired after just 68 games. He's replaced by assistant Greg Gilbert. But on March 13, 2001, at the trade deadline, the Flames made a huge trade. They sent Corey Stillman, one of their most consistent and reliable forwards and a prominent 20-goal scorer, to St. Louis Blues for a 2001 7th-round pick and two-way center Craig Conroy. This was not a bad move at all, though some questioned it at the time, because Stillman was still one of their best goal scorers on a team that didn't really score very often. But the team felt it needed more depth, and they definitely did. Conroy can definitely provide that. He was a clean checker on all sides of the ice, a great face-off man, an excellent penalty killer. He was a finalist for the Selke in 1998 as league's top defensive forward, and he definitely adds substance to a Flames team that desperately needs it. Despite his arrival, however, it didn't help the Flames make the playoffs. They finished with 73 points, 4th in division, 11th in the West, the 6th least amount of goals in the league out of 30 teams, 11th most goals given up. Their power play was 11th worst. Their penalty kill was 3rd worst in the league, making Conroy's arrival make a lot more sense. This is a team that is the very definition, as people say these days, mid. Hell, they were barely even that. They would lose Phil Housley as a free agent to Chicago in the offseason, and they traded Valerie Bure along with Jason Weimer to Florida for Rob Niedermeyer and a second-round draft pick. This wasn't too bad, as Niedermeyer could give them lower line depth, but again, Bure was one of their top scorers. That being said, however, Bure's career would go on the decline due to serious injury issues. The draft pick, however, never played a game. Niedermeyer would play 111 games in Calgary, but the Flames need goals. They need lots of them. However, they also felt they needed a goaltender. Well, they made a huge trade. On draft day on June 23, 2001, the Flames traded goalie Fred Brathwaite along with Daniel Tkachuk, Sergei Varlamov, and their 9th-round draft pick to the Blues for a 4th-round draft pick and goaltender Roman Turek. Now, to be fair to Brathwaite, he actually stood on his head many nights in the last 3 seasons for the Flames as a starter, but Turek had a better upside and resume. An excellent save maker with quickness and efficiency, Turek knows how to win. He has a career record of 96, 47, and 23, an amazing 2.14 goals against average, and a save percentage that's really good of 908. He cut his teeth backing up Ed Belfour in Dallas, where he shared the Jennings Trophy with him in 1999 for least goals against in the league. However, in his first season with the Blues in 1999-2000, he went on his own, having a banner year, was a finalist for the Vezina as a first runner-up. He was a second-team All-Star. He led the league in wins and shutouts that year. He's coming off a year where he had injuries and finished with 24, 18, and 10 record, but still a very good 2.27 goals against average. He had a 901 save percentage and 6 shutouts. He also has international experience with a World Championship gold medal for the Czech Republic in 1996. That year, the Flames drafted winger Chuck Kobasu from Boston College, and he'll join the team in 2002. Going into the 2001-02 season, expectations still were not very high for the Calgary Flames. But this was the year of Iginla. An epic season. His 52 goals led the entire league, giving him the Richard Trophy, and his 44 assists totaled 96 points, becoming the first Calgary Flames player to win the league scoring title, being awarded the Art Ross Trophy as a result. Also, he was voted MVP by his peers in the NHLPA's Lester B. Pearson Trophy, today known as the Ted Lindsay Award, and was the first runner-up for the Hart Trophy as league MVP, and was a first-team All-Star for the first time. And on top of all that, he helped Team Canada win their first Olympic gold medal in 50 years, the Winter Games in Salt Lake City. He had a great tournament, but saved his best for last in the gold medal game with 2 goals and a 5-2 win over Team USA. And hey, on top of that, Craig Conroy was a finalist for the Selke Trophy, and Roman Turek was the first Flames goaltender to obtain 30 wins in a season since Mike Vernon in 1990-91. But it still doesn't help. Despite their 79 points being their best mark in 6 seasons, they still finished 11th in the West and 4th in their division. Be that as it may, this could mean there's a little bit of hope on the horizon. In the 2002 draft, the Flames drafted Eric Nystrom, son of Islanders legend Bobby Nystrom, but he wouldn't join the team until 2005. But what's interesting about this draft is who the Flames took 90th overall. They took forward Matthew Lombardi, a centerman from Victoriaville, the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, who was originally taken by the Oilers 2 years prior, 215th overall. The thing was the Oilers failed to sign him to a deal, and he went on to improve himself while playing in Victoriaville, as he's coming off a season of 57 goals, 73 assists for 130 points in just 66 games. Unbelievable. Overall, Lombardi had 109 goals, 148 assists, and 257 points in 250 games from 1998 to 2002. The Flames did acquire backup goalie Jamie McLennan, and they also made a really good free agent signing at the beginning of July. Veteran forward Martin Gelina, a hard-working role-playing forward with nearly 900 games of NHL experience, was good at defending against top forwards near the net, was a solid penalty killer, and could sometimes score and had a pretty good shot. He had 468 career points. He started his career with the Oilers, where he provided a deathful boost in the 1990 playoffs. And he got himself a Stanley Cup ring to boot. After a short stop in Quebec, he became a very popular fan favorite in Vancouver and helped them to their run to the 7th game of the 1994 finals, and a few years later found himself on the Carolina Hurricanes, where he was just coming off a big 2001-02 season, where he helped the Canes all the way to the Cinderella run to the Stanley Cup finals before losing to the Red Wings. He definitely brings depth, and again, his 121 games playoff experience doesn't hurt either, but they have to get to the playoffs in order to make that happen. On October 1st, 2002, just 9 days before the start of the season, the Flames made a trade. They sent forward Dean McCammon as well as defenseman Derek Morris and grinding forward Jeff Shantz to the Colorado Avalanche for reliable forward Chris Drury and Stefan Yell. Yell is a veteran of 7 seasons and played all of them with the Avalanche. Indeed, he is a good grinding forward using defensive and special team situations. He has 2 Stanley Cup rings to his credit in 96 and 01, and has gotten votes for the Selke a couple times. He has played in over 500 games, and again, brings a much deeper depth, I should say, easier for me to say, to the Flames forward core. But they need goals, for crying out loud. I mean, other than Iginla and a couple others, they really don't have much going for them in that regard. Yeah, speaking of goals, they also traded Mark Savard, who was one of their best goal scorers as the season was just getting underway, to the Atlanta Thrashers, where a guy who never played one game in the NHL. Well, after a 6-13, 3-3 start, Coach Greg Gilbert is fired. So the new coach will be Daryl Sutter, who's part of the infamous Sutter family dynasty out of Viking, Alberta. His brother Brian, I mentioned earlier, was once a Flames coach. After Daryl's career came to a sudden end at the age of 29 due to injuries, he became an assistant coach with his former team, the Blackhawks. He then went to the IHL for a couple seasons, where he led the Indianapolis Ice to the Turner Cup Championship and was named Coach of the Year in 1990. Then after serving as assistant to Mike Keenan back in Chicago, he was named head coach of the Blackhawks for the 92-93 season. And after 3 winning seasons and a conference final appearance, he then took a job as a team consultant for a couple years. But then after that, took a job as head coach of the San Jose Sharks, where he's been since 1997. He turned his fledgling Go Nowhere team around quite a bit, but just before he took this job, with the Flames that is, he was fired by the Sharks mere days earlier after an 8-12 2-2 start. His overall record in the NHL as a coach is a very impressive 302 wins, 247 losses, and 101 ties or overtime losses. And he's made the playoffs every year he's coached, but he's only made it past the second round once. Either way, this is a really good move. Now, Sutter was doing all he could to motivate this club, and more moves were being made. On February 9, 2003, they sent a conditional draft pick to the struggling Pittsburgh Penguins for defenseman Andrew Ference. There were several scouts who thought Ference's lack of size for defenseman in this era would be a hindrance, but he plays with heart and determination, and in parts of 4th season with the Penguins, he has shown some promise, especially in the 2001 playoffs. Also, he's had a few injury issues, but the Flames felt he could really lend a substance to this blue line core. However, in 163 games, he's pretty minus 19, but most of that came from actually this season, so the Penguins are pretty bad at this point. This is kind of a steal. On March 11, 2003, the trade deadline, the Flames made another deal with the Penguins, as they sent away little-used defenseman Mickey Dupont and forward Matthias Johansson in exchange for forward Timmins, Ontario native Sean Donovan. Donovan brings more size to the Flames forward core, and while not much of a scorer, he was also a horrendous career minus 91 in 523 career games. Mind you, he plays for some god-awful teams. He's only made appearances in the playoffs twice in 9 seasons. But again, this is really not a bad move. Another deal they made that day was reacquiring Dean McCammon from the Colorado Avalanche while giving up a 5th-round draft pick to get him. McCammon was originally a first-round draft pick, top prospect for the Chicago Blackhawks in 1991, but he ended up cutting his teeth in Edmonton, where he was a reliable, hard-working role player and could score here and there. He had close to 300 points in 581 career games and was a plus 34. After returning to Chicago and then in a brief stint in Philly, he had a career-high 21 goals with the Flames last season, but was part of the Juriel trade, as I mentioned earlier. He has suffered injury issues in Colorado and also throughout his career. This season, however, he has notched 18 points in 41 games, which is a plus 1, but he is out for the remainder of the season. Also on this day, the Flames traded Rob Niedermeyer to the Ducks for J.F. Downfus, who would never play a game for the Flames, and defenseman Mike Commodore. Despite Sutter helping the team improve, they were dead last in the Northwest and 12th overall in the Western Conference, marked that 7 straight seasons without a playoff berth. That is the longest active streak in the NHL at the time. Iginla had another good year, but not near the level he had last season. Conroy, Drury, and Jelena all reached the 20-goal mark, but the Flames still had the 4th least goals in the league, and in a dead puck era, that's saying something. They allowed the 13th most goals in the league, which, to be fair, isn't great, but far from terrible, as Turek only had 3 wins less than last year. Denis Gauthier has proven to be their best defenseman, really working hard to work his way up through the ranks. But the Greg Button era is over. He did make some pretty good moves in his time in Calgary, but again, not enough to improve this team. But they felt their future wasn't steady in his hands anymore and chose not to renew his contract. So now Daryl Sutter will assume the general manager role in addition to his coaching duties. This team, however, still seemed completely hopeless. But now we prepare for the 2003-04 season. First, we start with the 2003 NHL entry draft that took place on June 21st in Nashville, regarded as one of the greatest draft classes in NHL history. The Calgary Flames took Dion Phaneuf, a defenseman from the Red Deer Rebels of the WHL, 9th overall. Actually quite an excellent pick, but he will not join the team until 2005. He would go on to play 378 games for the Flames and over 1,000 games in his NHL career. The rest of the picks the Flames would make in this draft only played a combined 13 NHL games and just 1 for the Flames. But the only real omission here is one that many teams squander, to be fair, as the man who played that one game with second-round pick Tim Ramhold, a defenseman from Switzerland, when 10 picks later, future Hall of Famer Shea Weber was taken. 2 weeks after the draft, Sutter made a trade. On July 3rd, 2003, he sent forward Steve Bijan and Chris Drury to the Buffalo Sabres for forward Steve Reinprecht and defenseman Rhett Warner. Now, Warner was a warrior of a defenseman, leading by example, always overcoming injuries and setbacks and seemingly just coming back stronger every time. He was grossly underrated when it came to conversations among defensemen in this era. After 4 seasons in Florida, he came to Buffalo and became a huge fan favorite. He's a career plus 54, has 660 penalty minutes, and is very no-nonsense. He's appeared in 2 Stanley Cup Finals, one with Florida in '96 and Buffalo in 1999. Steve Reinprecht is a hard-working forward coming off a career-best 51-point season with the Colorado Avalanche, where he has spent all but 60 of his 225 games with. He was part of their Stanley Cup winning team in 2001. He's a career plus 18. Again, lends some substance, but can he lend goals? As the season draws closer, the odds makers make their prediction, and the Flames are given the odds of 10,000 to 1, the second worst odds out of 30 teams in the NHL to win the Stanley Cup. Yes, hope for this team has gotten even worse. Experts feel they're only going to get worse and become a complete laughingstock. Many of Sutter's moves were criticized. It seemed to some that they are trying to follow the formula of the successful teams of the dead puck, neutrals on trap, or clutch grab era, whatever you want to call it. Teams such as the New Jersey Devils, Detroit Red Wings, Colorado Avalanche, or the Dallas Stars have accomplished great success in this era. Thing is, when you have a defense like the Devils and a goaltender like Martin Brodeur, you only need a couple guys scoring goals, you'll still have success. When you have an offense like the Stars had that could give their defense time to adjust, plus precise special teams work, you'll have success. When you have all-time greats like Sakic and Forsberg on the Avalanche, as well as Milan Hajduk up front, and a goalie like Patrick Waugh, of course you'll have success. And when you have a budget like the Detroit Red Wings, you can stack your team with future Hall of Famers and have a coach like Scotty Bowman to keep their egos in check so they don't end up like the Rangers, and yes, you'll have success. None of these elements that made these teams great pertain to the Flames whatsoever. Their special teamwork is not overly strong. They've been one of the worst scoring teams for a while now, and they give up a lot of goals despite how talented some of their goaltenders might be. So this is what Sutter has to work with going forward. He has one superstar, Jerome McGinley, who many wonder if he can carry the load much further than he already has, and he's now the official team captain. They have other excellent players like Craig Conroy and a really good player like Martin Angelina, but what can they really offer to give this team a good season, let alone a winner? They had character players galore on this team: McKimmett, Reinprecht, Donovan, Saprikin, Kobisak, rookie Matt Lombardi, veteran fan favorite Chris Clark, Stefan Yell, Dave Lowry. Not exactly the ingredients of a winning team. The defense, however, was one of the highlights of this team, if you want to say that. They did have some hard workers. Gauthier was indeed a workhorse, and Tony Lidman, Jordan Leopold, and now they have Ferentz and Warner, and Robin Regier is a player with heart, soul, and determination. But is it really enough? And Roman Turek-Annette is an excellent goaltender, but again, how further can he carry this load himself? Well, I guess we'll find out as we get ready for opening nights. And indeed, on October 9, 2003, at GM Place in Vancouver, they faced their longtime division rivals, a good-looking Vancouver Canucks team, led by Marcus Naslund, Todd Bertuzzi, and the Sedin twins. And it was a bad start to the season. The Canucks' cohesiveness was too much for the Flames to handle. Turek let in 4 goals on 26 shots. Ginla was held to just 1 shot on goal. Lowry had a rough game in a 4-1 loss. Chris Clark had the only goal of the game, a power play marker. 2 days later, however, the Flames had their home opener against Patrick Marleau, Vincent Damphousse, and the San Jose Sharks. The Flames looked sluggish in the first few minutes of the game, but on the power play, Lombardi gets it to Saprikin, who sets up Kobisak. It's 1-0 Flames. The Calgary defense and their grinders are keeping the Sharks at bay, but the Sharks tie it. It's 1-1 after 1, and then early in the second, they take a 2-1 lead. And Turek's night is done, and comes McLennan. And the Flames checking is on point, however, this game. The offense responds at last, as Ferentz sets up Stefan Yell to tie it 2-2 after 2. And early in the third period, Lidman anchors a rush over to Yell, who puts in the right place for Sean Donovan. It's 3-2. And the Flames hang on to win 3-2 indeed. A great night for Stefan Yell, a goal and a helper. And Calgary's grinders are really on point here tonight. A very sharp team effort from all those involved. And on October 14th, it's time for the 0304 Chapter 1 version of the Battle of Alberta. Led by Ryan Smith and backstopped by goaltender Tommy Sello, the Edmonton Oilers are one of those teams that seems up in the air. It's a very defensive game, and the Flames aren't getting many chances, but their defenders are keeping the Oilers in check as well. And McLennan is making some big saves when he needs to. Midway through the second period on the power play, Saprikin sends it back to Ferentz, who sends up Blair Betts. And what would be the only goal of the game, and a 1-0 win for the Flames, a 19-save shutout from McLennan, and a solid outing from the Flames up and down the lines. And then the team went back and forth teeter-tottering, and they dropped the 2-0 loss to the Sabres. Iginla has yet to register a point this season in the first 4 games, as the media is already on top of him about that. McLennan is back in net, and Iginla finally gets his first goal of the year and plays a beauty overall, while Lombardi has a goal and a helper and a 3-2 win over the Minnesota Wild on the road. But then they run into Red Hawk goaltender Chris Osgood in net and would lose 2-1 at home to the St. Louis Blues. Lombardi stays hot with a goal, however. Then in a game that saw nearly 100 combined penalty minutes, Chapter 2 of the 03-04 Battle of Alberta, the Flames, however, looked hungrier than ever. Iginla is just a beast out there and shuts up the naysayers in the media. A goal, 2 assists, 3 points in a big 4-2 win. Ryan Pratt breaks out with a goal and a helper, and Conroy comes alive in this game as well with the same. However, it was a rough outing in a trip to Denver as they faced Sakic Forsberg and the Avalanche. They lose 4-2. Iginla had a very frustrating night. Jelena played well, however, with 2 goals, while Kobasaw had 2 helpers. And a very rough night for Jordan Leopold in this one. McLennan let in 3 goals and 18 shots, and then there was the empty netter. The Flames did fire in quite a bit, however, on Avalanche goaltender Dave Abisher, but it just wasn't enough. 10th of the month, the Flames had faced the Dallas Stars on October 28th in Dallas. The Stars were led by superstar forward Mike Modano, as well as many veteran forwards who had successful NHL careers. They also had all-star defenseman Sergei Zubov. Minor league call-up Denis Sabrin got the start, and Turek was hurt as they needed McLennan rested. The Flames were looking very sharp in this game as Saprikin returned to the lineup after a short absence, and they were up 3-1 after 2 periods thanks to goals from Iginla, Saprikin, and Kobasaw. But then 2 goals by Stars all-star Bill Guerin in the third tied the game, giving him a hat-trick, while Jason Arnett scored an overtime goal just 17 seconds in the extra frame, and the Flames a 4-3 heartbreaking loss to end the month on a sour note, despite an all-around great team effort in this game. Well, they're not the worst. It wasn't the worst start. Certainly also not their best. It seems like this team's just simply existing enough not to suck. Well, they're 4-4-0-1 for 9 points. That has them in 7th place currently in the West. One of their better starts in recent years. But again, this team can't seem to score enough despite a solid defensive scheme. They're literally averaging 2 goals a game at this point. So they just seem like a team that's lost in the shuffle, very middle of the road, just downright average. Jerome Iginla, despite his slow start, got things going as the month progressed, including that amazing game against the Oilers where he had 3 points. Overall, he had 3 goals, 3 assists for 6 points. Again, half of those coming in that game against the Oilers. However, he was still proving to be the leader that he has been for quite some time now. Tied for second in scoring was Chuck Kobasaw with 5 points, and Steve Reinpret, who was the only Flames player to average a point a game as he started the season late. He played in 5 games. Craig Conroy got off to a slow start, but started picking things up later on. Donovan played solidly, while Martin Jelena proves to still be the hardest worker on the team. Rookie Matthew Lombardi was excellent, while despite injury issues, Oleg Saprikin looked good. As did Dean McCammon, but he too is battling injuries. Stefan Yell is playing his role very well, while Chris Clark and Blair Betts played pretty decently. Jelena and Lombardi led the team with a +2 in terms of plus-minus. Leading defenseman in scoring was Andrew Ferentz, who had 3 assists, but I'd say their best defenseman that month was Denis Gauthier, as he was the one hustling everywhere he could be to break up offensive rushes and swinging momentum back to his team's size. Also, Tony Lidman had a really good month, as did Rhett Warner, proving to be a solid addition to the team. Robin Regeer struggled a little bit, but it was a very rough month for Jordan Leopold. Overall, however, the Flames defense helped give their team an edge on several occasions. As for the goaltenders, Roman Turek didn't play well in his starts, and soon his injury issues came to the surface. He lost both his starts and had a below-average 3.39 goals against average, a really bad .857 save percentage. But Jamie McLennan, however, was excellent, going 4-1-0-0 with an incredible 1.61 goals against average and a shutout to boot, a superb .914 save percentage. But can he be the guy to lead Calgary going forward in net? Denis Sabrin suffered that overtime loss, played well early in the game, but fell apart later. Either way, despite great play from McLennan, Calgary's goaltending could see a hit when it comes to facing more formidable scoring teams. The Flames began November, however, on the right note, a 3-0 shutout win over Rick Nash and the lowly Columbus Blue Jackets. Leopold rebounds with a beauty of a game, 2 goals, while Reinfeld has 2 helpers. McGinley played very well, and Regier had an excellent game to boot. As the Flames' defensive system helped McLennan face just 15 shots, but he stopped them all for his second shutout of the year. But then it was back-to-back shutout losses. First, Shanny and Stevie Y got the better of our boys, as Cujo stops all 21 Flame shots. Ginla and Conroy don't play well. McLennan was pulled after the second period, and 3-0 loss to the Red Wings. The Flames put forth a much better effort against the Minnesota Wild. McCammon returned to the lineup, but they were without Rhett Warner, and ran into red-hot Dwayne Rollison in net, who stopped all 34 Flame shots. McLennan led in 3 on just 20. Conroy had another rough game. But good news! The Flames scored 3 goals against the Jackets in Columbus. Bad news is Columbus scores 4, as the Flames up front again look pretty good here. They fired in 42 shot on Mark Denis, but McLennan is pulled again after letting in 3 goals halfway through the game. The Flames aimed for a comeback, but it fell short. It's still a very cohesive effort. It wasn't enough. Conroy, however, bounced back from his little mini slump, and Iginla was rock solid. But that's 3 losses in a row, and Sutter is being taken to task by the media. But the Flames broke that streak emphatically, scorching a sad-looking Blackhawks team 6-2. And what a night for rookie Matthew Lombardi, his first career hat trick, and adding an assist. An amazing night for the youngster. McLennan plays marvelously in net, stopping 31 shots. McCammon played his best game of the year so far with 2 goals, while Warner had 2 helpers. A great all-around night for the Calgary Flames. But they give Danny Sabrin the start against the Predators, and he lets in 4 goals on 22 shots. That earns him a trip back to the minors. While the Flames fire in 30 shots on Thomas Vokoun, he stops 29 of them in a rough 4-1 loss. They have now lost 4 of their last 5. The Flames, however, do need to do something about their goaltending. McLennan can be really good on most nights, but he's also somewhat inconsistent, and the Calgary defense is giving him room to breathe most nights. Sabrin is not seen as a reliable backup, and Turek is still hurt. And I'm willing to bet that at least one of you watching this video think that I forgot somebody. Nope, here he is. On November 14, 2003, the day after the Nashville loss, the Flames sent a 2005 conditional second-round pick to the San Jose Sharks for their backup goaltender who hasn't seen any action this year, Finnish import 27-year-old Mika Kiprasov. Yeah, okay, these stats don't look very promising even for a backup. 14, 21, and 3, 2.84 goals against average, and a .897 save percentage. That stems from the really bad year he had last season, 5-14 and 0-0, with a below-average 3.25 goals against average and a bad .879 save percentage. That's not so good in this era. But the Flames need a goaltender, so he's here, but the hopes aren't very high. And now it's time for the 2003-04 Battle of Alberta, Chapter 3. And the Flames get a boost when Oleg Saprikin returns to the lineup. The Oilers lead 1-0 after 1 as Conklin is a wall in net. And Clark and Saprikin, however, set up Lombardi for the tying goal late in the second. McLennan is making some big stops as well, and the Calgary defensive core is playing extremely well. The third period, however, sees no scoring. We're up to overtime. Then time is winding down with 17 seconds left. Ryan Smith hands the Flames another loss. Just 1 win in 6 games. Then it was back-to-back for a 5-game homestand, but it didn't look easy in their way as a good Toronto Maple Leafs team. Not only were they led by superstar Matt Sundin and legendary goaltender Ed Belfour in net, 2 former Flames icons, Gary Roberts and Joe Nieuwendyk, now wear the blue and white, as does former Flame Robert Reichel. The Leafs took a 1-0 lead midway through the first period, but nearly 4 minutes later, on the power play, Lidman controls it, and Ginla steers it over to Steve Reinfeld, who scores and ties the game. It's 1-1 after 1. The Flames defense is giving Toronto nothing to work with as the second period winds down. It's another power play. Again, let's survey the situation over to Reinfeld, who sets up McCammon. It's 2-1 Flames after 2. But a power play goal from Sundin early in the third ties it. So we're off to overtime again, and this can't bode well. However, 124 in, Iginla, who has been a beast tonight, and Reinfeld, who's playing the game of his life, set up Tony Lidman, who scores the OT winner just 124 in. The Flames get an all-important win 3-2 over the Toronto Maple Leafs. What a night for Iginla. 3 apples, in on all 3 goals, and a banner night for Steve Reinfeld, also in on all 3 goals, a goal and 2 helpers. And Lidman played fantastically as well, the goal and an assist. Unbelievable. 2 days later, it's time for Hockey Night in Canada on CBC as the Montreal Canadiens, led by Saku Koivu, come to town. And getting his first start in net as a member of the Calgary Flames is Mika Kiprasov. The Flames are firing in on Jose Theodore, but the former MVP is turning everything away. And the Habs strike first later in the first period, but with 53 seconds left in the frame, McCammon to Reinbret. He stays hot as it's 1-1 after 1. Kipper is making some big saves, and Calgary's defense is solid. It's still 1-1 after 2. The third period is winding down. It looks like we're headed for a third straight overtime, but with 1:14 left, Martin Gélina, who had missed the last couple of games, scores a game winner in a tight 2-1 win for the Flames. Ginla, Reinbret, and McCammon all carry their momentum from their great games over the Leafs. Gélina comes up in the clutch, and Kipper's debut goes very well with 22 saves. 2 days later, on November 22nd, the Blackhawks are in town as the Flames look to win 3 in a row for the first time this year. They decimated the Hawks 6-2 earlier this month and look to do the same as Kipper gets another start. Stefan Yell returns to the lineup after missing the last several games. Both Kipper and Craig Anderson, however, make big stops in the first period. It's scoreless after 1. This Hawks team has proven to be much more difficult than their last outing, but just over 13 minutes into the second period on a power play, Lombardi back to Leopold, who sets up Steve Reinbret, and yes, he's on a roll. It's 1-0 after 1. The Hawks tied, however, just over a minute into the third, but as time is running down, it looks like OT is almost inevitable this time, as loose puck is taken in on goal by Dean McCammon, who scores a beauty. 49 seconds left to play and gives the Flames another thrilling clutch 2-1 win. 3 in a row, all at home. The first time the Flames win a trio of games consecutively this season. Steve Reinbret has just been an absolute machine in this stretch. McCammon has also played very well, and an excellent game from Kiprusoff in net, stopping 24 shots and facing 25. Easy for me to say. The Flames have life. Kipper gets his third straight start against a powerful Avalanche after that. And while it was a very exciting game, a thrilling back and forth, the Flames lost in overtime. 6-5. Saprikin had 2 goals. Ginla, Clark, and Yell each had 2 helpers. Not a good night for Kiprusoff. 6 goals on 24 shots. It's his first loss as a Flame. The next game, to end November, it was an exciting outing with the Vancouver Canucks. The Flames were down 2-0 after 1 and 3-1 in the second before tying it 3-3 after 2. They took a 4-3 lead midway through the third, but then the Canucks tied it with just over 2 minutes left to play. The Flames had to settle for their first tie of the year. Donovan played his best game yet, 2 goals and a helper for 3 points. McLennan got the start here and stopped 30 of 34 shots. The Flames finished November 5-4, 1-2. The month started off pretty damn bad, but ended up with the team working more cohesively to obtain wins. But with their 9-8, 1-3 record overall this season, which isn't awful, they do sit in 11th place and aren't very high up on those below them. But they're only 3 points back of a playoff spot, and any way you slice it, this is basically the norm for them in recent years. They did, however, up their goals a game to 2.5 this month. The team lead in club scoring was shared this month, as Steve Reinbret proved to be a great addition to this club. His 4 goals, 5 assists for 9 points, and a +2 were all key in the Flames' 3-game win streak that changed their fortunes later in the month. Jerome Ginla, in a rare feat actually, had a lot more assists than goals, notching 8 helpers and just 1 tally, but that still ties him to the team lead with 9 points, a goal and 8 assists. He too is huge on that win streak and is still leading by example. Coming in third for scoring is defenseman Jordan Leopold with 3 goals and 5 assists for 8 points. He excelled in several games as a hard worker, game in and game out. Speaking of hard workers, Chris Clark was hustling out there on every single shift. Gélina was still doing the same. Ricky Lombardi had a really good month, and of course his big hat-trick against the Hawks stands out. Conroy had his struggles, but he was coming around, while Dean McCammon proved to be an X-factor, especially during the win streak. Saprikin played well, as did Yell when he wasn't hurt. However, part-timers Lowry and Oloya were not overly productive. And again, I mentioned how Chris Clark was hustling during every shift, and when he wasn't serving time in the sin bin, he was making his presence felt on the ice, and finished number 1 on the team for November for plus-minus with a +4. Now, Leopold, as you've already seen, led all defense in scoring with 8 points, and while he did have a really good month, the Flames' defensive core as a whole was solid, as Andrew Ference was excellent on many nights this month. Robin Riquier continues to make his presence felt. Tony Lidman was great in many games, as was Rhett Warner, as he continues to be impactful. Danny Gauthier struggled, but also played very well in many games. Well, the Flames' new arrival in Mika Kiprusoff certainly looks solid so far. Played excellently in his first 2 games, but the loss against the Avalanche inflated his numbers to a 2.64 goals against average and deflated his save percentage to an 889. Jamie McLennan looks solid despite somewhat inconsistencies. However, he has a decent 3-2 1-1 record, a good 2.40 goals against average, and a save percentage of 900 right on the dot, and a shutout. Danny Sabarin, however, lost 2 games and had a well below average 3.32 goals against average and an abysmal 842 save percentage, and he will not be back this year. Either way, the Flames' goaltending situation looks a little more promising with McLennan and Kipper going forward. However, there was some bad news to start December as Steve Reinpret, who had been amazing for Calgary as I just mentioned, was injured and out for the entire month. They'll begin this month, however, on December 2nd, hosting a red-hot San Jose Sharks team who started the year very poorly but have come alive as Kiprusoff will get the start against his former club. The grinders in the Flames, such as Stefan Yell, were keeping starters like Marleau at bay. The Sharks and their goaltender Veska Toskala was making big saves, while Kipper was also not letting the Sharks past him. It was scoreless after one. Then around the midway point of the second period, Conroy gets it back to Leopold, who sets up a Ginla for the goal. Calgary strikes first. The Sharks, however, tie it later on, but with 54 seconds left to play in the second period, Sean Donovan is hauled down going in on goal. He's given a chance for a penalty shot, and he scores! Giving the Flames a 2-1 lead after two. The Flames defense is piling up on the Sharks. Kipper's making some huge stops with time winding down, and on a power play, Martin Jelena scores the empty netter to give the Flames a 3-1 win. A huge cohesive effort. The Flames defense playing amazingly. Regier plays well in this game, and he's praised by the media. Conroy notching 2 assists, and Kipper again solid in net. Next up, however, was on the road to face their rivals, division-leading Vancouver Canucks. And near the halfway point of the first period on a power play, Lidman quarterbacks, E.L. Recedes, and again scores it to make it 1-0 Flames. And Kipper is turning away shot after shot, and they take that lead in the first intermission. The Flames are playing very smart hockey and strike again in the second with Saprikin to Conroy and sets up Donovan for the goal. 2-0, and Mika is mighty in net. And it's 2-0 Flames after 40 minutes. Just less than a minute into the third, Warner sends in Jelena to make it 3-0. The Canucks, however, break Kipper's shutout bid, but Ginla has the empty netter for his second goal of the game. The Flames take a huge 4-1 win on the road against their division rival, the powerhouse Canucks. Jerome Ginla is superb with his 2 goals. Conroy plays under beauty, and Kipper is once again great in net. Then the very next day was back home against the Minnesota Wild, a quite disappointing club considering they were coming off a miracle playoff run the prior season all the way to the conference final. The Wild just scored less than 2 minutes in, and Manny Fernandez was playing superbly in net. The Flames couldn't seem, however, to get to him. It was 1-0 after 1 and after 2 as well, and the Wild goalie stayed hot. Kipper was making sure that the Wild didn't increase their lead. In the third period, however, just 1:43 in, Ferentz gets it up to Conroy, who sets up Donovan, who has been on a roll. It's tied 1-1, and time is winding down. The goalies are not letting up. Looks like OT is at it. Oh, but wait, Ginla scores! The Flames with a big, thrilling 2-1 win. The Saddle Dome goes into a frenzy. Ginla playing clutch hero. The Flames have now won 3 in a row once again, and yes, everything is a team effort in sports, I know, but the cohesiveness that this Flames unit is showing is off the charts. And next up is a very sad-looking Pittsburgh Penguins squad led by Dick Turnstrom, I guess. But anyway, Leopold scored just 1 minute in, but the Pens actually tied it just a minute and a half later. However, Donovan gets one, so does Yell. It's 3-1, and it stays that way after one. Then on a power play late in the second, Warner up to Clark, who sets up Saprikin. It's 4-1 after 2. And in the third, Donovan gets his second goal of the game, again at 5-1. And with time winding down, power play, Diener to Marty to Shuddy! His second career hat-trick, his first in 3 years. The Flames take it 6-1. Donovan also had a helper to give him 4 points on this banner night, as now the Flames have won 4 in a row and haven't suffered a regulation loss since November 13th. Jelena is fantastic here. 3 assists. He's been outstanding so far this month. McCammon also played very well with 2 assists. Leopold and Regier played a beauty, as Warner did as well with his 2 assists, leading the way for the Flames defense, who has been on top of things lately. And Kiprusoff is again tremendous playing net-minding hockey. During this hot streak to start December, the Flames are truly delivering. Sean Donovan has really come alive. 6 goals and a helper for 7 points in 4 games. A huge +6. The man himself, Jerome Ginla, has 4 goals in 4 games, averaging a goal a game, while Martin Jelena has 5 points in those 4 and is a big +4. Craig Conroy had 4 assists in 3 games, but bad news. He is hurt and is going to miss quite some time. The Flames defense can't say enough good about them. Robin Regier is a +5 in this stretch and had an assist, while Jordan Leopold was a +4 and had a goal and a helper each. And Mika Kiprusoff, where did this guy come from? Working well with his defense and making big saves, playing and winning all 4 games. Goals against average of literally 1 goal a game, a monstrous .957 save percentage. On December 9, 2003 in Minnesota, it was a special night for Martin Jelena. This is a 1,000th career game, his first being all the way back on October 7, 1988 as a member of the Edmonton Oilers against the New York Islanders. That day, he also assisted on 2 Jimmy Carson goals. And in this game, with the Flames down 2-0 with 4:32 remaining, he scores to bring the Flames within 1, but their streak comes to an end with a 2-1 loss, their first regulation loss in nearly a month. But then it was back home against veteran Ron Francis, rookie Eric Stahl, and the Carolina Hurricanes. It was a nice goaltending duel between Kevin Weeks of the Canes and Calgary's Mika Kiprasov, and Kipper gets his first shutout as a Calgary Flame. As Donovan's goals, just 1:45 into the third period, was all the Flames needed, a tight 1-0 win. Next up on December 13th, it's the Colorado Avalanche, who are unbeaten in 7 games, and the Flames have had some trouble with them so far this year. This will be another goaltending shutout. Kipper is great in net, and so is David Abisher of the Avalanche. It looked like Regeer's goal early in the second was going to be enough for the win, but as time was winding down, the Avalanche tied it with 6:38 remaining in regulation. Overtime saw nothing, and the Flames had to settle for a 1-1 tie here as Kipper and the defense continue to play well, and Donovan stays red hot with an assist. Things aren't looking any easier for the Flames as they head east to take on a very powerful Philadelphia Flyers club led by veteran greats Mark Recchi, Jeremy Roenick, John Leclerc, and Eric Desjardins, with youngsters such as Simon Gagne, and in net you had veteran Jeff Hackett. But Jerome McGinley stunned the Flyers early with a beauty of a goal to open the scoring, but then Philly tied it and then took a 2-1 lead in the second. Kiprasov was standing on his head in this one. Still trailing midway in the third, however, Jelena gets it to Donovan, who sets up Dean McCammond to tie it 2-2. Kiprasov is making some highlight reel saves. Time winds down. We're off to overtime, and 3:33 in. Dean McCammond wins it for the Flames, 3-2, his second goal of the game. A huge clutch performance for Diener. He has been red hot himself lately. Donovan is playing some of the best hockey of his career still. Kiprasov plays his most difficult game as a Flame yet, but still gets the W with 35 saves. After 8 straight starts for the Kipper, McLennan is back in net as the Flames shockingly dominate the Big Bad Bruins 5-0 in Boston. Again, McLennan is fantastic in net with a 30-save shutout, his third of the year. Ginla has 2 goals, Jelena has 2 helpers, McCammon and Donovan stay hot. Lombardi, who has been kind of quiet on the score sheet, has his biggest game since his hat trick with 2 assists. A very emphatic win for the Flames. Flames are now unbeaten in 4. Then they make it unbeaten in 5, as crappy Columbus does give them a run for their money. Kipper is back in net and puts on another clinic with 33 saves and a 2-1 win. Jelena scores a goal, Lombardi gets a shorthander, and Donovan again delivers. And after the successful road trip, it's back home as the 2003-04 edition of the Battle of Alberta, Chapter 4, will take place. Last couple outings against the Oilers were pretty rough, and Kipper is again sensational in net, and Saprikin scored a power play marker midway through the first. Warner scored his first goal of the year in the early portion of the second. It was 2-0 after 2, and both goals were assisted by Ginla and Lombardi. The Oilers, however, get one back, breaking Kipper's shutout bid with 3:60 remaining, but again, the Flames hold on to a win! Oh, easy for me to say. Their 4th straight win. They are now unbeaten in 6. Kipper, 30 saves. Ginla, the man. Lombardi, great game. The Flames are shocking many media pundits and experts across the NHL. The hottest of the Flames in this stretch, Donovan. Again, looking great. Goal, 4 assists, 5 points. And the man, Iggy, Jerome McGinley, 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points, literally a point a game, and a great +5. Jelena was still solid, a goal, 3 helpers, 4 points, and a +3. Dean McCammon really came alive during the stretch. 3 goals, 4 points, and a huge +5. And the defense, Robin Regeer, +5. Adding a goal and a helper, Jordan Leopold, a +4, a goal and 2 apples. And Mika Kiprasov, again, where did this guy come from? 5 starts, a 4-0-1-0 record, an insane goals against average of under 1, 0.97. That's psychotic even in this era. Oh, again, just an utterly incredible 966 save percentage. However, the hot streak does come to an end in a 2-0 shutout loss to Vancouver. Kiprasov, however, stayed sharp with 29 saves, but the Flames just couldn't get any goals going. And then they got the best two Oilers again with another 2-1 win. Iggy in on both goals with a notch and an apple each. And they would have to settle for a tie. 2-2 with the Minnesota Wild at home. Jelena and Lowry with the goals in that one. And they continue to have problems with the Avalanche, however, to end them on the 2-1 loss, despite McLennan making 27 saves in this one on New Year's Eve. And that's how December ends for the Flames. And wow, just wow. The Flames perhaps had their best month in nearly a decade. 10 wins, just 3 losses, and 2 ties. Again, 2 hot streaks, a 4-game win streak, a 6-game unbeaten streak. They now move to 19-11, 3-3 on the year for 44 points, which puts them all the way up to 4th place. What a jump in the West. They are neck and neck with division rivals Colorado. The Flames, for the first time in a long time, are making some headlines, and the fact they did it with a few key players injured makes it all the more impressive. The way this team is working together, fighting hard for every single win they can obtain, truly define the aspect of teamwork. Their goals per game, however, went down to a 2.3, but I guess when you're not letting in that many goals, it doesn't matter. Again, they may not be scoring goals like other teams, but the Flames forwards were quite a unit this month. Oh my goodness. The lead for scoring is again tied. Jarome Iginla is at the forefront of it all once again. 8 goals, 4 assists for 12 points. Excellent +8. Continues to show why he's among the league's best players and leaders with the heart of a warrior. The big surprise this month, however, was Sean Donovan. He was insanely good during the hot streaks, even securing a hat trick, notching 7 goals, 5 assists for 12 points, and is also a +8, really showing a great work ethic. Coming in third in scoring was hard-working Martin Jelena, 5 goals, 6 assists for 11 points, and a tremendous +9. He's key in the clutch, and also played in his 1,000th career game. Again, Dean McCammon was also excellent this month. Also, Saprikin had a really good month, as did Stefan Yell. Rookie Matt Lombardi was tremendous in several games, and Kovasu played solidly. Chris Clark continues to be a good hand, while part-timers Green, Morgan, Oiwa, and veteran Lowry contributed the best they could. Craig Conroy was looking excellent until his injury, but this whole forward core stepped up huge in Conroy and Ryan Pritt's absence. It was also a great month for the Calgary defense, as Robin Reguera led the team in December with a +10. He was showing what he could do every time he was out there. No play too big or too little for him to lend a hand and show how important he is to this club. Once again, for the second straight month, Jordan Leopold leads defenseman in scoring with 6 points. He, too, was incredible. Also was a +9 to boot. He was a difference maker in many games and really showed his value to this club in a monster way. These two are far and away the best blue liners in the club during the hot streak, but the credit also has to go to Tony Lidman, who came up big on many nights, as did Andrew Ferentz, who played many great games, but really didn't get a lot of the credit he deserved from the media. Danny Gauthier had a much better month than November. Brett Warner also played very well, but I gotta give credit to Steve Montador as well, as there were a couple injuries for the defense this month, and he had to step in for a few games and did really well. And well, again, Mika Kiprasov proved to be the right guy for the Flames. What a month. 9-2-0-0. Ridiculous numbers. Again, even for this era, I can't stress that enough. Goals against average of 1.21. A save percentage of 952. A shutout. He's making incredible saves on highlight reels on TSN almost every time he played. And indeed, the man who's becoming officially known as Kipper among Calgary fans was far exceeding any expectations. Not to mention his communication with his defense was superb. And hey, to his credit, Jamie McLennan still is playing really well. He gets another shutout with his only win this month, and still putting up great numbers, including a goals against average of just above 1 and a .966 save percentage. Wow, a great month for the Calgary Flames, up and down the roster, and hey, Coach Daryl Sutter deserves a lot of credit for getting what he can out of this bunch. But it's bad news for the Flames to start the new year. Indeed, Red Hot goalie Mika Kiprasov has been diagnosed with a sprained MCL. He'll be out for several weeks. Flames have overcome injuries as it is this season, but this one could be more costly than the rest. But we'll see if they can overcome adversity once again. The month starts rough, and another loss to the Canucks as the Flames run into Red Hot goaltender Alex Auld and take a 3-1 loss. Clark had the only goal of the game. Then it was off to the Big Apple to take on Messier Lindros in a very messy Rangers club. The Flames dominated the Rangers 5-0. McLennan made 36 saves with his fourth shutout of the season. And what a night for Andrew Ferentz. The defenseman, who's not a scorer, only had 7 points all season until this game, scored 2 goals and added a helper for a huge career night, 3 points. Jarome Iginla was on fire as well with a 3-point night of his own, a goal and 2 helpers on his end. Then Iginla had another 3-point night following that with 2 goals and a helper, making it 6 in 2 games against the Islanders, as McLennan was great as the Flames edged Mike Pekka and company 3-2. And Steve Reinprick made his return to the lineup and notched an assist. But then they suffered a stunning upset to the Chicago Blackhawks as they ran into red-hot Michael Leighton in net. Iginla continued his hot streak, assisting on Saprikin's goal in a 3-1 loss. But then they bounced back, returning home. Iginla has another 3-point night and a 4-2 win over Roberto Luongo and the Florida Panthers. 2 goals and an assist, but Cameron had a goal and a helper each, and Regeer and Saprikin both play a beauty with 2 assists, and Leopold played a great game too. Iginla, however, now has 10 points in 4 games. He's rolling. But the Flames are not. They proceed to go winless in their next 3 games, as the injury bug and disappointing performances from some players are starting to add up. One of them was Sean Donovan, who has hit a bad slump since the hot streak back last month, but he did score the only goal in a 4-1 loss to red-hot Toronto, McLennan allowing 4 goals on 23 shots. The game, however, got really tense in the third period, and a game that saw combined 70 penalty minutes, and the Flames being penalized for shouting obscenities from the bench. Then there was a heartbreaking tie with the Washington Capitals next in a crazy game. The Flames went in like a firing squad on all-star goaltender Olaf Kolzig, and McLennan was playing pretty well too. But all 6 goals came in the final 5:37 of the game. The Caps got a goal. 59 seconds later, Lombardi tied it. 29 seconds after that, Saprikin gave them the lead. And then later on, with 1 minute to play, the Caps tied it. 21 seconds later, with 39 seconds left to play, Iginla made it 3-2. But with 1 second left, just 1 second, Yager tied it. Overtime saw nothing. Crazy. And after 8 straight starts, McLennan finally gets a rest as Roman Turek returns to action and was decent, stopping 26 shots. Craig Conroy returned as well. But the Flames, despite holding a 2-1 lead after goals by Clark and Jelena after 2 periods, the Dallas Stars came back to beat them 3-2. The praise that was being heaped on the Flames mere weeks ago has now turned to criticism. Despite how good he was playing, Jerome Iginla's leadership was actually called into question by some. The Flames were under a lot of pressure as they headed into Anaheim to face the Mighty Ducks, who are the defending Western Conference champions, but having a disappointing year as the effect of Paul Kariya's departure to Colorado was being felt in many ways. The Flames would, however, be without Iginla. This would be the only game he'd miss all season. But it was Craig Conroy. Oh man, in his second game back, roared back with a vengeance. 4 assists, a monster game. The Flames just completely torched the Ducks 5-1. Ferentz had 2 assists, while Kobasu returned to the lineup after a lengthy absence and had 2 apples, while Lidman had a goal and a helper. Turek gets his first win of the year and is outstanding, stopping 36 of 37 shots. Then it was a seesaw of outings. First, a trip to LA and a 4-1 loss to the Kings. Turek faces bombardment, but lets 3 in. As the Kings had an empty netter, McCammon shorthanded the only goal for the Flames. And then it was back home. It's a 4-0 win over a really good-looking Nashville Predators club. Donovan, who has been taking some nasty criticism in recent weeks, scores both a power play and a shorthander. Lombardi has 2 goals as well. Reinhardt finally emerges, playing his best game since returning with 2 assists, as Clark also had 2 helpers. And, well, Turek stops 23 shots for his first shutout of the year. But then they are destroyed 6-2 by an excellent-looking Tampa Bay Lightning squad. Turek allows 6 goals on 29 shots. Jelena and McCammon get the goals for the Flames, what many are calling the Flames' worst performance of the year so far. And then the Flames played their most focused game in a very long time, beating the Phoenix Coyotes 2-1. The Flames' defense was amazing here, holding the Coyotes to just 12 shots, and they bombarded Sean Burke the other way. Iginla, who had been taking a task for his play the last handful of games, scored a power play marker, while the game winner with 2:08 to go, Donovan gets a second penalty shot goal of the year. Wow. It's really that even happens once a year. But then it's back-to-back losses to end the month. The first, a bad 4-1 loss to the Sharks. Turek stands on his head with 32 saves, and it isn't enough. Kobasu plays brutally. So does Iginla. So then they lose again to the babblingly bad Blackhawks, 5-3. The bright spot being again Iginla roaring back with a 3-point night, 2 goals and an assist. Not a good way to end a very weird month as it is. Ugh. Pretty big setback. Not terrible, but still not very good. 6-8-1-0. It's their record now for this month of January, and they now stand 25-19-4-3 for 57 points. Remember, last month they were in 4th at the end of the month. They've slipped all the way down to 9th in the Western Conference out of playoff position, but just 1 point back, however. Also, many teams have gone on hot streaks as of late. Injuries and inconsistent plays and other factors led to all this, as now, after a month of triumph and praise, has become downtrodden and causing fans in media to lose hope again. Crazy thing is, their goals are actually back up to 2.5 a game, but the cohesiveness just seems to have disappeared. After a red-hot streak where he was praised, the media turned against Jerome McGinley, but more often than not, he delivered despite a brief cold spell. He led the team in scoring with had 9 goals, 7 assists for 16 points, and had that stretch of 10 points in 4 games. He played 14 out of 15 this month. This is actually the first time this season that McGinley has averaged more than a point a game in a given month. Craig Conroy, however, was a huge highlight this month. 9 assists after returning to play in 8 games in January after being out for over a month and a half. He was second in team scoring. He was a welcome presence in his returns. His two-way play will be much needed going forward. The third spot was tied. First, Sean Donovan, despite a little slump, had 4 goals, 4 assists, 8 points, but was a -3. And again, he wasn't near as forceful as he was the month before, but still productive in many ways. Oleg Saprikin, not known for his scoring abilities, was really good this month, as he had 4 goals and 4 helpers as well for 8 points. It was a +2. And as for the others, Jelena went hot and cold, McCammon was hit or miss, but more so good than bad. Lombardi played some great games and some not so great games. Chuck Kobasu was absolutely brutal upon his return, as was Christophe Olua, and Clark played very well for the most part. Part-tire Lynn Loynes wasn't too bad, but Steve Reinbert was a massive disappointment upon his return, a team worst -8. Green was decent, and Stefan Yell was injured most of the month. Craig Conroy's contribution up and down the ice led him to lead the team with a +4 this month. But this was not a very good month for the Calgary defense, as it seemed the loss of Kiprasov and net diminished their spark. Ference led the defense in scoring with 2 goals, 4 assists for 6 points, and had that epic 3-point night against the Rangers, but saw his play diminish as the month wore on. Regier was probably still their best defenseman. Remember, he was a +10 last month? He was a -2 this month, as was Leopold, but he too was still one of their best blue liners. Gauthier and Lidman both went hot and cold. Warner was ineffective many nights. And this core is one of the Flames' strongest aspects, if not their strongest aspect as a whole. If these guys fall apart, they might as well just kiss their season goodbye. Roman Turek returned and played a couple really good games, even got a shutout, but his 3-5-0-0 record and decent 2.79 goals against average isn't much to write about in a team that relies heavily on defense and doesn't score very often, despite a really good .904 save percentage on that hand. McLennan, however, continues to shine, 3-3-1-0, again, may not seem great, but he had a very good 2.25 goals against average and a superb .916 save percentage in his 4th shutout of the season. But it's clear neither of these two worked as well with the defensive scheme as Kiprasov has. Granted, the inconsistency of the defense hurt these two as well this month, but Sutter is really at a crossroad with this whole situation. February started with a trio of different outcomes. First, a crazy win over the Ducks. They were able to get a 6-4 triumph. Big games for many involved. Donovan, Jelena, and McCammon each had a goal and 2 helpers for 3 points. Chris Clark had 2 goals as well. The Flames then faced the Kings and let a 2-goal lead slip twice and had to settle for a 4-4 tie. But Jerome McGinley obtained his 4th career hat trick, scoring 3 goals, playing a beauty. Then it was a tight 2-1 loss to the Blues. Turek played very well in net against his former team, but Osgood and the Blues, defense led by Chris Pronger, kept the Flames at bay. McCammon got the only goal. The Flames are now just looked at as a typical middle-of-the-road team after the high hopes of December. And then came the NHL All-Star break, as the All-Star game took place on February 8, 2004, in St. Paul, Minnesota. Jerome McGinley played in his 3rd straight midseason showdown among the NHL's elite, being the sole Flames representative. The Western Conference, however, would drop a 6-4 loss to the East. But then it was back to business, and some great news at last. Goaltender Mika Kiprasov has been cleared to return to action. He's ready to play. And the Flames go on a 4-game win streak in Kipper's first start back. It's Ilya Kovalchuk and the Atlanta Thrashers in town. He plays very well, stopping 23 shots in a 5-2 win. But Iggy steals the show again. Another 3-point night, 2 goals and an assist. McCammon continued their role with 2 goals. Sabrigan and Conroy also come up big in this game. Turek gets a start next in a tight-knit battle with the Canucks. He's outstanding with 32 saves. And McGinley's tie-breaking game winner 28 seconds into the third gives him another big night with 2 points. Then it was a tight 2-1 win over the Ducks. Iggy keeps his hot streak going with a goal, and Kipper is superb, stopping 25 shots. And it was another tight 2-1 win. Iggy strikes again. Kipper gets a break, however, just facing 16 shots as the Flames down the Wild. And the defense, especially Regier and Leopold, playing outstanding in this one. But then they drop 3 straight as they head to Eastern Canada. dropping a loss to a solid Habs team 4-1. Kiprusoff letting in 3, still stopping 28. Saprikin and Lombardi are quite bad in this outing. Then they made the short drive to Ottawa to face Alfie Spezza-Hossa and the powerful Senators. But the Flames lose 2-1 as they couldn't muster up much momentum. Leopold gets the only goal. Turek stops 22 shots. It's quite a lifeless effort as Iginla's hot streak also ends. Then it was a 3-1 loss to the defending Cup champion New Jersey Devils. Kobasu getting the only goal. Kipper letting in 2 of the 3 goals, stopping 23 shots. Lack of goals seems to be catching up to the Flames here on this one. However, on February 24, 2004, the Flames made a trade. They sent Southern Used winger Jason Morgan and a conditional 2005 draft pick to the Chicago Blackhawks in exchange for Finnish left winger Ville Nieminen. Nieminen was a pesky forward, kind of in the vein of his fellow countryman Esa Tikkanen, where he could really get under an opponent's skin and rile them up. He may not have the same scoring touch, but he has 252 games experience and a Stanley Cup ring as a member of the Colorado Avalanche in 2001, and actually played quite well in those playoffs. Despite his staggering minus 33, that mainly stems from his time on awful clubs such as these Hawks as well as the Penguins in this era. But it wasn't about to get any easier for the Flames, as on the same day as this trade, they make a trip to Denver to face the Colorado Avalanche, their division rivals, who've had Calgary's numbers this past year. Well, it was a showdown of goaltending and defense. Kiprusoff was playing an epic game, but Colorado's Dave Abisher was doing the same. The Avs defense led by Rob Blake is playing great, but Tony Libman of the Flames is playing a beauty, and Stefan Yell returns to the lineup at long last to take on his former team, in the grill of Joe Sakic, his former teammate, a man he knows very well. Time is winding down however in the third period, still no score. With 2:19 left to play, Montan Jelena in the clutch scores a huge goal set up by Conroy and Lidman, and they have the lead late, forcing the Avalanche to try and press, and they pull their goalie, but Clark gets the empty netter, securing a 2-0 win for the Flames, finally melting the Avs for the first time this season. An excellent all-around game for Calgary, and a huge win over a division rival. Everyone working hard as they can, and Kiprusoff's return held in a big way as he obtains his second shutout of the year with this tremendous performance. However, they still weren't able to best the Red Wings in a tight 2-1 loss, despite a valiant effort. They fired in 34 shots on Wings goaltender Manny Legacy, Kobasu getting the only goal. But the Flames bounced back, hosting the struggling Coyotes at home with a 4-2 win, Leopold with a goal and assist, while Conroy and Reinfred had 2 assists each. Neiman also has joined the lineup. Well, definitely a significant improvement over last month. 7-5-1 for the month of February, so now sit in 7th place, 72 points, with a 32-24-5-3 record, and it's sitting somewhat pretty. With 18 games left, they're in a good position. Fans are thinking, playoffs? Oh yes. And despite some rough patches this month, they look good, and Kiprusoff's return really lit a spark under them once again. They're again showing that cohesive work ethic that has already won them many games this year, as they again average 2.5 goals per game this month. But any big collapse could still spell doom. Well, surprise, surprise! Jerome Iginla leads the team in scoring this month. An insane 10 goals, adding 3 assists for 13 points. Again, averaging a point a game. So now suddenly the naysayers are turning into possible MVP talk. Especially if the Flames can make the playoffs. Definitely a big game performer and momentum changer. Craig Conroy hasn't missed a beat since his return, and is second in scoring at 2 goals, 8 assists for 10 points, and providing that trademark grinding effort that has been a difference maker. Coming in third in scoring is Dean McCammon. 5 goals, 4 assists for 9 points. He's really been an X-factor this year, coming up big in many games. However, the big improvement this month was Steve Reinfred, who looked rough in his return last month, but has returned to form. Sean Donovan was a little better this month than last month, despite losing a little bit of a scoring touch, while Martin Jelena proved to be solid once again. Oleg Saprikin played very well some nights, but struggled immensely in others. Same for Matt Lombardi. Chris Clark had some rough outings, but again, triumphed in many others. Stefan Yell, well, he looked pretty good upon his return. Iginla and Conroy, the team's 2 best forwards this month, tied the team lead for a +6, as their overall presence could not be rattled. Leading in defensive scoring, however, was Jordan Leopold with 3 goals, 3 assists for 6 points, and a tremendous month overall. But I gotta give a lot of credit to Tony Lidman. He played many great games this month. Robin Regueiro was also excellent once again. Andrew Ferentz was hit or miss. Danny Gauthier played some of his best outings he had all season, and Rhett Warner seemed refocused once again. And after a rough January, this Flames defensive core has regrouped in a big way and are pretty much back to what they were in December as a force, showing the difference that Kiprusoff makes. And speaking of which, Kipper is back, and he is looking outstanding. He was key getting the Flames going on that 4-game win streak, a good record of 5-3-0-0, and more incredible numbers, including a goals against average of 1.63, an excellent save percentage of 932, plus a shutout. It seemed like he hasn't lost a step. Now, Turek, despite his 1-2-0-0 record, actually really put up some good numbers. An excellent 2.02 goals against average, a superb 929 save percentage. And while J.D. McLennan played 2 games to begin the month and had his worst outings despite garnering a win and a tie and no losses, it was a bad 3.84 goals against average and an equally bad 849 save percentage. Crazy to have these goaltenders this good. I mean, 3 goaltenders this good on this team. But the Flames do have to focus on their future for budgetary reasons and also for another, as, again, any of these goaltenders could be used for trade bait. And with the trade deadline coming up, you best believe that's coming. So now it comes down to this. 1 month to go, 18 games, 16 in March, 2 in April. The Flames are in a good position, but we've seen them fall before already this season. Can they do it? Well, they begin the month well enough with a win over the St. Louis Blues 4-2. Iginla with another 3-point night. 2 goals in the helper. Steve Reinfeldt also notched 2 goals. Kiprusoff plays a beauty with 28 saves. Nieuwendyk has settled into the lineup, and Warner played very well here to boot. But they continue to be unable to solve Detroit, and the defense played well enough, and the Flames fired 29 shots on goal. Iginla got the lone goal in a 2-1 loss. Turek stopped 20 shots. However, in a rare sight this year, Kiprusoff gets lit up with 5 goals on 34 shots for the Dallas Stars. A bleak game to say the least. A 5-1 downing. These back-to-back losses raised a few eyebrows of concern. The Flames play like a very frustrated bunch in the Dallas loss. And the next day, Sutter makes a trade. On March 6, 2004, just a few days before the trade deadline, the Flames sent forward Blair Betts, who played 20 games this season, winger Greg Moore, who has yet to play an NHL game, and goaltender Jamie McLennan to the New York Rangers for a 2004 7th-round pick, and Chris Simon. Now, many questioned this as many felt McLennan was the better goalie than Turek this season, and with some of the numbers I've shown you, it's a valid argument, but be that as it may, McLennan is no longer a Calgary Flame. Chris Simon now is. He is one of the nastiest and toughest customers in the NHL in this era. Chris Simon will no doubt add toughness to the Flames. He's an enforcer of the old school kind over the course of 12 NHL seasons, where he played close to 600 games at this point. In his career, he's best known for his time both with the Nieuwendyk/Avalanche, where he got his name on the Stanley Cup in 1996, and was ever popular with fans in Washington as a member of the Capitals for 7 seasons, where he helped the team make the Cup final in 1998. He also scored some goals here and there, racked up some assists. His 257 career points show he's more than just a bruiser. He's accumulated 1,571 penalty minutes over his career, and had a brief stint in Chicago before he joined the Rangers this season. He was actually quite productive on this poor club, had 14 goals, total 23 points, 225 penalty minutes, and a really good plus 14. Simon will be in action on March the 7th as the Flames travel to Colorado to meet the Avalanche, who they've had a lot of trouble with until recently when they got a 2-0 win over them. But now with those back-to-back losses against formidable teams and going to Denver, can they pull this off? The Avs were starting backup Philippe Sauvé, and this could be the chance for the Flames to really assert some dominance. And wow, do they ever! A stunning 7-1 win. Again, for a team that doesn't score many goals, this is pretty damn good. A massive cohesive effort. Everyone on the ice was just doing something every shift. What a night for Craig Conroy, though. A goal, 2 helpers, 3 points. He continues to shine. Rhett Warner, 3 assists, and a +4. Speaking of +4, so is Denny Gauthier. Oh my goodness, his Flames defense is on point. Saprikin, 2 goals. Iginla, a goal and a helper. Chris Clark, goal and a helper. What a huge win. The Flames showing the world it's playoffs or bust. However, some bad news was given to the Flames after this game. Steve Reinfeldt, who played very well here, was about to undergo season-ending shoulder surgery. As the trade deadline was approaching, the Flames made a deal on March the 8th, and with Reinfeldt's season over, they sought another forward. They dealt a 2004 second-round pick to the fledgling Florida Panthers for left-winger Swedish import Marcus Nilsson. Nilsson was a hard-working, grinding forward who could work the boards in heavy areas, score the odd goal or assist here and there. He was a first-round draft pick for the Panthers in 1996, and after brief stints with the club, he joined the team full-time in the 2000-2001 season. He was definitely a player with heart, who could fill Reinfeldt's void, as also he's rarely missed a game in his career. He has 131 points in 327 career games. His -20 may not be much to look at, but this Panthers club was pretty bad. He was a fan favorite in Miami and exhibits leadership skills. He also has a silver medal to his name from the World Championships in 2003. And the Flames keep on rolling. They did have to settle for a 1-1 tie with the Oilers in the next chapter of the Battle of Alberta, the last of the season. But they were coming alive trying for a playoff spot, so the Oilers team was very determined. But Nieuwendyk gets his first goal as a Flame, and Kipper stops 27 shots. Then it was a big home win over the powerful Senators, 4-2, as Nilsson scores his first and second goal as a Calgary Flame. Donovan helps out with 2 apples. Nieuwendyk had 1 each. Oh my goodness, this Flames team means business. But they also found out they'll be without Dean McCammon for the rest of the season, who suffered a terrible back injury. But the Flames kept persevering over all of this. And next was a very good Nashville Predators club, and the Flames fought tooth and nail to get a tie in this one. Conroy with another huge night, 3 assists, Donovan adding 2. Niemann and Nilsson continue to produce as Chris Simon gets his first goal as a Flame. And then Simon is great the next night, a goal and a helper with Leopold notching 2 apples, and Roman Turek gets a 25-save shutout over his former team in a 3-0 win over the Blues. The Flames are now unbeaten in 5. But then on March 16 came a road game against the Detroit Red Wings, and the Flames have had trouble against them, of course, this year, and have yet to beat them. The Wings have the best record in the league, but a superb team effort allowed them to score a 4-1 win, as they didn't get many shots at Manny Legacy, but made 4 of them count, and that's what matters, a huge win. Kiprasov, again, excellent net. This team is determined and motivated to win. Which is why I want to bring this up. A team exercise was brought in by Craig Conroy. That was a big motivator to everyone on the ice. This green hard hat with the stickers of players' numbers adorning it was awarded after each win to the hardest working player on the ice in said win, and proved to work when it came to making efforts like the one that just happened against the Red Wings. As this made news, Flames fans were really following the trend, starting to wear green hats of their own. Fandom in Calgary at this point was the highest it had been since the glory days. Then it was a goaltending duel between Kiprasov and Mark Denis of the Blue Jackets. The Flames fired in 34 shots on Denis. Lombardi, who has been hot lately, got a second period goal, while Iginla hit a shorthanded empty netter with 17 seconds to play to secure a 2-0 Calgary win. Kiprasov with a 23-save shutout, making it 7 games unbeaten with 8 games to play. And look at this, the Flames are sitting nicely in 6th place, but still have yet to, still have to stay the course with 8 games left. And they're not completely out of the woods. However, with 86 points, they do sit 5 points ahead of the Blues, who are closest to them. They just need to keep getting points. But then they drop the next 2 games, bringing their 7-game unbeaten streak to a screeching halt. The Flames dropped a 4-1 decision to the Nashville Predators at home, Iginla scoring the only goal. It's also a game that saw a skirmish in the final seconds that resulted in a combined 100 minutes of penalties. The Flames then bombarded Stars goalie Marty Turco with 29 shots, but not one went in. Kipper had a really rough night, a 4-0 loss to Dallas. But they bounced back the very next game against the lowly Coyotes. A huge 4-0 win. Iginla, Conroy, and Gauthier each with 2 points. Turek gets a 22-save shutout. But it was another setback. It was a thrilling outing against the Sharks. The Flames trailed 2-0 as time was winding down. But goals from Jelena and Saprikin, 2:15 apart, and the latter with 4:01 to go, tied the game. But the Sharks scored with 24 seconds to play and won the game as a result, 3-2. Losing 3 of their last 4 was putting Calgary fans on edge, and the media again on skepticism, but they still had faith in their boys. On March 27th, the Flames desperately need to beat the LA Kings if they want to make their playoff dreams a reality. However, the Kings are having a very rough month and are desperate to cling on to their playoff hopes. It didn't look good early. The Flames only trailed 1-0 at the end of the first period. They were squandering many chances. And Kings goalie Cristobal Yue seemed to have their number at times they did get close. But on a power play, just 1:26 into the second period, Iginla gives it back to the point for Leopold. He sees Chris Simon, who scores. Game is tied 1-1. However, the Kings retook the lead 6 minutes later, but then later on, Warner gives it up to Iggy, who sits up Simon Conroy for the goal. It's tied 2-2. It remains that way after 2. In the third period, Kiprasov is making huge save after huge save. Yue, however, is doing pretty much the same on the other end. And the time winds down. We're going to overtime. And just 1:06 in, Sean Donovan wins it for the Flames. The Saddledome erupts like they just won the Stanley Cup. The joy in Calgary is insane as they get a step closer to reaching that great destination at long last. Iginla and Conroy are on fire. Kipper provides great clutch goaltending. An all-around amazing effort as the Flames reach their 40th win of the year, reaching the mark for the first time since the 1993-94 season. Well, the Flames get the next few days off, and the alignment of the standings fell into place the way they needed it to. As it comes down to this, on March 31st, they host the Lowly Coyotes, and it's simple. Win, and they're in. Just 3 games left, including this one. A very excited crowd at the Saddledome Field, so a win over this pathetic Phoenix club will be easy. But teams with nothing to lose tend to be the most dangerous this time of year. And to start the game, goaltender Brent Johnson is not allowing the Flames to get anywhere. He's denying them every which way. Kiprasov, however, is bringing his A-game and beyond, making more and more great saves as the Flames fans cheer on their new hero. But on a power play late in the first, Leo Tarabin to Iggy! His 40th goal of the season. The Flames lead 1-0 as the Saddledome shakes to its core in excitement. It remains 1-0 after one, and Kiprasov is showing how important this is. He knows it. He's stopping the onslaught of the Coyotes every which way. As the Flames look for some more leverage, but they still don't get it. It's still 1-0 after 2. The third period, the Flames fans sit on the edge of their seats, both in the arena and at home. At every shot the Coyotes make, a gasp lets out, but Kipper is there. The Flames are trying for that insurance marker, but Johnson is there. But then the announcer calls out, 1 minute remaining, 1 minute remains. The Coyotes looking for the equalizer, but the Flames stay focused, as does Kipper. 30 seconds. The city of Calgary has been waiting for this. Is it finally reality? 10 seconds. Everyone in the building is standing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0! The Calgary Flames hang on to win 1-0, and for the first time since 1996, in 8 seasons, they are going to the Stanley Cup playoffs. The team mobs goalie Mika Kiprasov, who obtained the most important shutout of his career, stopping 27 shots to do so. How fitting is it? Jarome Iginla, the man who has carried a heavy load in these last 8 seasons, be the man to score the game winner. Flames fans feel the fire and the passion of their team. Yes, they were given virtually no chance at all by odds makers. Media pundits and experts as well expected them to be one of the worst teams in the league. This journey has been nothing short of remarkable. It's the old cliche, sell us short and it only motivates us. The system of defense with minimal scoring finally worked, thanks to new strategies that Sutter implemented. Hey, and a red-hot new goalie certainly helped matters. The Flames had 2 games to go in April, and they split them. First, it was a 3-2 win over the LA Kings on the road. Lombardi with 2 goals, Regier with 2 assists, Shelna with a notch and an apple each. The Calgary defense playing great hockey here. Then they would drop the final game of the season, a 2-1 loss to the Ducks. Again, the shorthander, the only goal of the game. And now the regular season draws to a close. Wow. By golly, they did it. They actually did it. Again, given little to no hope, the team banded together to make it happen. Teamwork is a factor in any given team sport and success. But hey, this Flames team truly defined that. They had nothing but each other. Their one star player delivered, as did the role players. A rock-solid defense and a superb new goaltender, as well as his backups. They overcame several injuries to many key components of this team to make it work as well. They finished the final month in a bit 10-6-2. That huge 7-game unbeaten streak is ultimately what led them to this promised land. The final record of 42-37-3 for 94 points was good enough for 6th place in the Western Conference. Their first 40-win season since 93-94, their first winning record since the 1994-95 strike-shortened season, and their first playoff berth since the 1995-96 season. Oh, the road has been rough and uneasy, but they made it happen, and they should all be proud of themselves. As also the passionate fans of Calgary rallying behind them certainly didn't hurt. They reached their highest goal average in a month with 2.6 goals a game. Hey, what do you know? Jarome Iginla every month this season has either led or tied the team lead in scoring. This month he was on fire again. 10 goals, 7 assists for 17 points, and a +7. Tying him is Craig Conroy, who's been nothing short of superb since coming back from his injury. His two-way play has definitely given the Flames an edge when he's lined up with Iggy especially, and he had 5 goals, 12 assists for 17 points. It was a +6. Sean Donovan comes third for team in scoring and had a very good month. 1 goal, 8 assists for 9 points, and an excellent +7. Really showing determination and a winning drive out there. Phil Nieuwendyk, the pesky forward acquired from Chicago in late February, has delivered, giving the Flames even more depth. Marcus Nilsson has proven to be a great new addition, and Chris Simon playing his role very well as always, as these new forwards are going to help the Flames, who are now without McCammon and Reinfeldt for the rest of the season. Jelena, who missed several games, struggled a bit in his return, but ultimately found his footing again. Safrikin and Clark played very well in several games. Lombardi, as he's done all season, pops up with fantastic performances here and there. Christoph Oliwa had his best month yet, and Stefan Yell still very much reliable. The Calgary defense again delivered in aces. The team lead in scoring for defensemen was tied. Jordan Leopold had a goal and 7 assists for 8 points. Denny Gauthier had 8 apples, and Leopold led the team in defensive scoring 4 out of 6 months. Gauthier, along with Rhett Warner, however, tied the team lead with a +9 this month, as Leopold, Gauthier, and Warner were all nothing short of fantastic in the final month of the season and played some of their best all-around games all year. Regier also played very well once again, and so did Tony Lidman, but he's dealing with injuries, and his status in the playoffs is actually up in the air. Andrew Ferentz also proved to be a force once again. Steve Montador played well in the games that he stood up for. However, Mike Commodore was Either way, this core has momentum going into the postseason. And the goalies, Mika Kiprasov, wow, a really good 8-4-2-0 record. 1.98 goals against average, ridiculous. Amazing 924 save percentage and 2 shutouts. He has come up clutch for the Flames, especially in their win streak. Oh my goodness, he's won the hearts of Calgary fans everywhere. And you know what? Hey, Roman Turek deserves a lot of credit. A 2-2-0 record, but both wins were shutouts, giving him a goals against average of 1. He was fantastic in that. And while he may now be playing the backup role despite being the team's #1 going into the season, hey, he still looks sharp. Whew, what a season. But we ain't done yet, as we now take a look at the final numbers. Their 200 goals this season definitely isn't among the league best, but it's actually 14 better than the 186 they scored last season. They ranked them 27th out of 30 teams in 02-03, but this shoots them up 8 spots at 19th in the league. Keep in mind, we are nearing the end of the dead puck era. But what's more impressive is their least goals against. In 02-03, they gave up 228, 18th least. Yikes. But they allowed 52 less goals, with 176, third least in the league. Truly remarkable. Thank you, Kipper. Their power play still wasn't great, but improved from being second worst in the league last year to 19th best. Their penalty kill was decent last season, but it improved 3 spots itself from 16 to 13. Well, as you already know, Jerome McGinley led the team in scoring. 41 goals, 32 assists for 73 points in 81 games. Still playing a physical style, determined to make any play happen, and proved he was made to lead this team. His desire to play at his utmost best is uncanny. Second in team scoring is Craig Conroy. Despite missing 19 games, he was second on the team with 8 goals, 39 assists for 47 points in 63 games. It was an excellent +13 and was the team's best two-way forward. His style clicked with Iggy's physical prowess, and he was on every end of the ice where he needed to be. He's a huge asset to this team, no doubt. Sean Donovan had some hot and cold periods, but finished third in team scoring with 18 goals, 24 assists, 42 points, and was a +14. Despite this, Donovan was always a hard worker, game in and game out, and always determined to win. Again, working hard areas and trying to make any given play. Martin Jelena, as he has throughout his career, is always working hard to give his team any edge they can. Stephen Reinfeldt was having a really good season, was a valued asset before his injury shortened his year, and ultimately ended his season. Dean McCammon also played excellently in many games, but he also won't be joining the Flames in the postseason. Matthew Lombardi was shining very well in his rookie season with few very big outings, and also making the most of the small ice time he had in a given game. Stefan Yell proves once again to be a key grinder and role player. Oleg Safrikin played some really good games, as did Chris Clark. New addition Phil Nieuwendyk, his pest-like ways are going to be key for Calgary going forward, and Marcus Nilsson hopes to be a difference maker. Chris Simon is already very popular with Calgary fans instantly. His playoff experience can prove to be an asset, no doubt. Meanwhile, Christoph Oliwa is a nasty enforcer, and he sure can help in many ways. Aguilar's 41 goals was a three-way tie for best in the league, and as a result, he was awarded the Rocket Richard Trophy for leader in scoring. Goal scoring, that is, for the second time in his career, sharing it with Rick Nash of the Columbus Blue Jackets and Ilya Kovalchuk of the Atlanta Thrashers. The second time in his career, he has reached 40 goals, and this is the second highest goal total of his career. And Aguilar was second in the league with 29 of his goals on even strength, just one behind league leader Marcus Naslund of the Canucks. This is his second time reaching the top 5, as he led the league in this category with 35 in 2001-02. Aguilar also notched 4 shorthanded goals, which was a 6-way tie for 4th in the league, and added 8 power play markers. He also had 10 game winners, proving just how good he is in the clutch. It was a 3-way tie for the best in the league, along with Bill Guerin of the Stars and Matt Sundin of the Leafs. The clutch, the extra man, the kill, when everyone's out there. Was there anything he couldn't do? Well, he could, and indeed did lead the team in plus-minus that year, with an excellent plus 21, showing his consistency and overall presence, and the second highest mark of his career. Leading the defense in scoring was Jordan Leopold, as you might have guessed by now. 9 goals, 24 assists for 33 points, and was also a really good plus 8. So he emerged as a tremendous defenseman in his sophomore season after taking many licks in his rookie year. Robin Regehr had the best season of his career. Not only did he lead all defensemen on Calgary with a plus 14, but his game evolved and he proved to be a huge asset in many key wins for the club. Rhett Warner proved to be a gladiator out there once again with his fierce play and heart. Had a tremendous season himself. Tony Lindman also lent great substance to this blue line core. However, he is hurt and questionable for the playoffs, and that could be a possible blow. Andrew Ference was given a real chance to shine and made the most of it. Had the best season of his career. Well, Denny Gauthier dropped it all the way back in 1995. Who's been on this grueling journey himself for 7 seasons, did all he could and did it very well to get his team to the postseason. Part-timer Steve Montemurro played well for the most part. Mike Commodore had his struggles, but all in all wasn't all that bad. The Calgary defensive core, what makes them so good is they all brought the best out in each other. And who would have thought that a backup goalie that lost his second-string job in San Jose, who the Flames didn't really have to give up much for, and was only meant to be a backup, would become their breakout star this year and put up insane numbers. Indeed, Finnish import Mika Kiprasov finished with an amazing record of 24-9-4-1. A remarkable 1.69 goals against average, a huge .933 save percentage, and added 4 shutouts. Again, he had an amazing focus, played well in the clutch in tight-knit games, had great communication with his defense. He stunned Calgary and the hockey world with what he was shown to be capable of. Now, Roman Turek started the year pretty rough, had injuries, still had some rough outings in his return, but ultimately found his footing. His 6-11 record may not be much to look at, but half his wins were shutouts. He had a really good 2.33 goals against average, a solid .914 save percentage, and Jamie McLennan, who the Flames gave up at the trade deadline, deserves a lot of credit. He did win 12 games of after all. His overall record was 12-8-3-1, with an excellent 2.20 goals against average and a really good .910 save percentage. But unfortunately for poor Danny Sabarin, well, he lost all 3 of his games, had a bad 3.55 goals against average, a horrendous .848 save percentage. Kiprasov's .933 save percentage was tied for the NHL leader, the Minnesota Wild goaltender, Dwayne Rollison. And indeed, his spectacular saves put Calgary fans out of their seats and on their feet. His 1.69 goals against average, a crazy number even for this era, was tops in the league, 0.19 ahead of the nearest to him, Dwayne Rollison, who also put up crazy numbers himself. But that's not all. His 1.69 goals against average was a modern NHL record dating back to 1942, 62 years. Mika Kiprasov, and again, this is out of all goalies who played a minimum of 25 games in this era, set a new mark. He passed the record that Stars goaltender Marty Turco had just set the year prior of 1.72. Even Rollison's 1.80 that trailed Kipper as second place made the list tied for 9th best of all time. Just an utterly crazy and insane year for our new net-minding hero. The record has since been passed, but either way, this was monstrous. And now, we go to award season. Jerome Iginla came also close to winning his first Hart Trophy as league MVP, coming in second place as a finalist but lost to Martin St. Louis of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Goaltender Mika Kiprasov missed out on being a finalist for the Hart Trophy, coming in 4th in voting. Kipper was a finalist for the Vezina Trophy, but came in second, losing to Martin Brodeur of the New Jersey Devils. Matthew Lombardi got 7 votes for the Calder Trophy as the league's top rookie, coming in 12th. A few Flames players did get votes for the Lady Bing Trophy for excellence in sportsmanship. McGinley came in 22nd with 14 votes. Jordan Leopold came in 32nd with 5 votes, and Martin Jelena was tied for 49th with 1 vote. 4 Flames players got votes for the Selke Trophy as the league's top defensive forward. Craig Conroy came in 12th with 35 votes. Stefan Yell came in 33rd with 6 votes. McGinley got 5 votes and was tied for 34th. And Sean Donovan came in 54th, garnering 2 votes. But the big shock here was that the Flames' defense didn't get 1 single Norris Trophy vote. It's just wrong. Jerome McGinley, however, did receive the King Clancy Memorial Trophy for the player who best exemplifies leadership qualities on and off the ice. It's been a significant humanitarian contribution in his community. This season, McGinley donated $1,000 for each goal he scored to a charity and has involved himself in every Flames-associated community program. And indeed, Jerome McGinley was named the second-team All-Stars, 2 years after being a first-team All-Star, as he indeed is the only Flames player to be named the year-end All-Star team. Well, indeed, that does it for Part 1 of our look at the 2003-04 Calgary Flames. Stay tuned for Part 2 as we get ready for playoff time. Like and share the video, and please subscribe to the channel. And until next time, I'll see ya!